Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Archery Talk 101. And we have Richard Fleming on the line with us today. And we're going to talk archery. And we got a whole lot of things we're going to be talking about today. So stay tuned and listen and catch all the cool stories we tell and all the products we're talking about and just all about archery. So let's get this started. Richard, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Roy. Glad to be here.
How about if you introduce yourself and tell us a little something about you?
I'm Richard Fleming. Um, I've been shooting competitive archery for the past 6 years. I'm from the state of Alabama. I shoot for Archery Unlimited, their shooting staff at the Archery Unlimited Pro Shop. Um, I got started shooting competition archery just because a friend of mine called me up and told me that him and his sons went and shot a local 3D course, and had a good time, and invited me to go the next weekend. It kicked off something I never dreamed would happen.
Yeah,
So,
you never know when you try something you've never tried before. It's like, oh, this is cool. This is fun. I want to do more of this.
well, and I'm a pretty competitive person, so I don't like to lose. Of course, you shoot archery too. This a game you're never going to beat. So, if you're a
Right.
competitive person, this game will keep you. It'll keep you busy. So, um, yeah, I'm just finished up this past season with I shoot the ASA Pro Am circuit, and I just finished up this past season with I won out of the senior known 50 class. So in 2026, I'm actually going to shoot in the senior known pro class.
Cool. Kind of get you going there and you just keep trying to get better and better with tougher and tougher competition and
Well, that's it. They say iron sharpens iron. So
yeah.
I want to shoot with the best.
And I've found that too before in a lot of different sports I've been in. If you're the best person out there, you're not improving. And just having somebody better than you out there, you're better. And you're not going to get better until you be around somebody that's better, even if they're not teaching. Just the fact that they're there and they're shooting that good gives you, something you got to look forward to. And in archery world, most of us archers, if you're struggling, we're going to help you if we can. If you're open-minded and willing to take criticism and pointers, and we're going to give them to you.
That's right. This shooting in the ASA Classic in Coleman this year. I had a couple of times where I was I shot an 8, shot a bad score, and kind of get down on yourself. And the guys I'm shooting with, they're pumping me up. They're like, "Man, you can't worry about that one. You got to let it go. Move on to the next target." And it could very easily be just the opposite. They could be going like, "Well, it happens. It's bad." Instead of pumping you up, they could keep you down, or try to bring you down even further. But the guys I shot with in our peer group, Kelly Weathersby and um, Tim O'Neill. Tim owns O'Neill Outdoors. He makes archery sites and stuff. Um, those two guys were, man, they were like cheerleaders for me in our course. Of course, we were all like that with each other because we all three wanted to win, but at the same time, we wanted to win when the other guys were shooting their best.
And that's kind of a common theme that I hear a lot of archers. You know, I don't want to win because you were doing so bad. I want to win because you're doing your best and I still did better than you.
Right.
That's how
Yeah.
I want to win. And, I was in an event one time in a competition and there was, I was the only male in my division and there's one girl in her division. So we joined them. I was like, I'm not
Right.
going to take a first because I was the only one in it. I got
Right.
last place. If you're the only one in it, you got last place and first place, but you got last place. And so I'd rather have, somebody else to skate against and get first against somebody else. At least I had first or second,
Right.
so that was one of those things that, you know, you could do it. And the event I was in, um, male or female, there was no real difference in what you could do. There wasn't like I had an advantage because of my size or something else, because it was, a different event that, you can do all kinds of different stuff in it. And It was actually a roller skating event, artistic skating. So the same techniques, the same techniques. It's whoever does them the best. So that's one of those things that, hey, combine them. And
Right.
just like in an archery, if there's, you've got the pro am and the amateurs, the known and unknown, and you got like two or three in each group. Combine them to be one. Either make
Yep.
it a known or unknown, whichever one they want to agree on. Because why do you want a first place trophy or first place medal when there's only one of you there, or two of you there or something?
Right. The more people you shoot with, it gives you a better idea of where you actually stand amongst your peers when you're shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, I would much rather shoot in a class like the previous year, 2024. I shot in the senior known class, and we'd had like 140, 150 people in that class. And I finished second place shooter of the year in that class. So it I you get more of a sense of accomplishment when you are shooting against that many people.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And you put a lot of hard work in to try and be good, and then it's like you're against that many people and you do that well. It's like, you see the efforts of your work you put in, and it's a lot of work. You put in a lot of hours shooting, and speaking of that, what's your practice sessions like?
Well, I don't shoot as much as I need to. Um, I work a full time job where I'm a wastewater operator for this Montgomery Waterworks here in Alabama, and we work a 12-hour shift. We work 7 days on and 7 off, and then when I'm off from there, I have a mobile pressure washing business, hydro-clean pressure washing, and so I work all the time. But I try to shoot in the evenings when I can. Of course, this time of the year it's getting harder because of the way the time, the days are shorter, so it gets dark earlier. But so I shoot in the evenings when I get off, and then before I go pressure wash, a lot of times in the mornings I'll shoot before I go out and do that, because when I go out and run this commercial pressure washing rig for 6 to 8 hours a day, it's hard to come and hold a bow steady and practice and
Yeah.
do what you need to be doing when you're trying to practice. And I'm not going to go out there if I feel like I just come out of the gym lifting weights. I'm not going to waste a practice session if I'm not where I need to be.
Yeah, if you practice with wrong technique, you're going to learn wrong technique. So, in some of those cases, I know sometimes you go out and you shoot three perfect shots and quit.
Yeah.
Because you got three perfect shots, and I've had times when I've gone out there and not working about three or four shots, like nothing's working. I went back home.
Right.
Range went back home because it's not. I'm not going to force myself to do it. Now if I had a tournament the next morning, I'd probably still not force it, because now then you're struggling, and now you kind of hard on your mind, because archery is a mind game.
Oh yeah. It's I'd say 90% mental. If you can get your form down and get to where you can execute a good shot, and your muscle memory's good, everything feels good. Then you need to work on your mental game. Um,
Yeah.
but I
But
was sitting in a in a room one night. It was late at night. We traveled with 3 or 4 guys, and we were sitting in a room talking. And Robert Householder, he shoots for Hoyt. He works at our pro shop too. But he was in the room with us, and we were talking. And he had a gentleman tell him one year. He said, Robert, he said, how much of this archery game do you think is physical, and how much of it you think is mental? And he come up with a figure, just say 85%. He said, so what do you work on the most, shooting or your mental game? Robert's like, shooting. He's like, well, that don't make any sense. If 85 to 90% of it's mental, you need to be working on your mental game. And so, little stuff like that I listen when people are talking, pick up on things, and I really started focusing on my middle game. And these last 2 years, it has helped me a lot.
yeah, it does. That's the thing that, when you get up there, like you made a bad shot. Well, now you're thinking about the bad shot, and then you're telling yourself, don't miss, don't miss. So what did your mind hear? Miss,
Yep.
miss, miss. It didn't hear the don't. It heard miss, miss, miss. So what's your next shot is a miss because that's what's in your mind.
Well,
So
you have to make yourself think. You have to make your shots. You've got to aim and execute the shot to hit. Not you can't shoot to, and try not to miss. You got to shoot to hit. So if you're out there and you're shooting and you're worrying about missing, that's when anxiety and target panic. That's when all that stuff sets in, and it'll get you where you can't even hold the pin on what you're trying to hit. You can't even get the pin to move to it. So you have to train yourself to shoot to hit the target, not miss.
yeah, and I like to say that your only physical job in archery is to store energy in the bow. That's your whole function. Store energy in the bow. The draw, anchor point, everything there. You've stored the energy. Now, your only thing to do now is aim. You've stored the energy. Now you just need to aim and it'll go off.
Yep.
So, I always like to say, okay, focus on not just, if you're shooting at a 5 spot, don't focus on the target, the 5 spots. Don't focus on the white spot on the 5 spot target. Don't focus on the center, but focus on the X in the center of the X ring, right there in the
Right.
center. So the whole time you're focusing on that arrow hitting the center of the X, not the X ring, but the center of the X. And it's amazing how many times when you're only focusing on that, you're not paying attention to anything else as you go through your proper release techniques. You're not pulling the triggers, or your thumb or whatever you're doing. I'm assuming you're using a mechanical release. And now as you aim and you just start pulling through, aim, 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 and then it'll go off.
Yep.
So the only you do is you're thinking, I want the arrow, you're picturing the arrow in the center of that X ring, not the X ring itself, but the center. Now, some of us can't see that target that well, but we know where it's at.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you can always tell when somebody's focusing more on the pin. Like you could be shooting with somebody and they go, I'm not really sure where that hit. Well, if you're just looking at that X like you're talking about, when that shot breaks and goes off, you'll see the arrow fall right where you were looking. But if you're looking at the pin, when that shot goes off, everything moves and you lose where the arrow. You don't see the arrow flight as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, and if you're looking at the pin, what are you aiming at? You're aiming at the pin. Where's
right,
the pin? You have
you don't
no
know.
idea where the pin is. And
Yep.
and that's one of the things I learned, way back 30 years ago, when I first learned back tension release, is you want to focus on where you want the arrow to go. Don't look at the pin, because if you look at the pin, you're going to have target panic. Because what happens in target panic, at least this is my concept of target panic, is you're looking at the pin, you see the pin go across your target, and then your mind says, pull the trigger. Another bad habit. It moves off the target. It says, don't shoot. So
Yep.
all of a sudden you start to pull the trigger, and then this emergency, don't shoot. That's target panic. And if you're not looking at the pin, you're not telling when to shoot. You're pulling through. You're aim, aim, aim. You never know when it goes off. There's no target panic if you're not pulling the trigger with your thumb or your index finger. Now the recurve shooters, now then, a lot of them do okay. Let go. So now then they letting go and they're pulling off. But if you're pulling back, you're all of a sudden it slides off your finger and it's still a surprise shot. Even with recurves, using your fingers, because you're not opening your fingers. Open your
Right.
fingers is the same thing as pulling your trigger.
Yeah, I've never looked at it that way, but that's you're right. Exactly right.
It's all the same. It's a little bit different mechanics, but the technique is the same. Look where you want the arrow to go and pull through your shot. Now, if it's a fingers, you're still pulling through your shot. If it's a mechanical release, you're still pulling through your shot. So,
Yeah, if you watch any videos of me, you'll always see when my shot breaks, my arm always comes back. It's always back. Sometimes it looks kind of like a sissy, but I don't know why, but that's the way it ends up. When I shoot it, and I use a thumb button, so I'm a puncher. But when my release goes
but
off, because I've got that back tension, it's a follow through.
yeah. So you actually using your thumb to pull a trigger, or you just pulling through it?
I'm pulling through it, but I do set it off. I'm
Uh,
I tried to shoot back tension, and I'm 52 years old, and all I've ever shot is releases with a trigger. So when I was shooting a back tension, I'd be pulling, 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 and I'd just dump it. So I'm I said, I'm making the shot go off anyway. I might as well have a trigger so I don't knock my teeth out one day.
yeah. Now, does yours have a little knob on it like this one that you pull through?
Yes. Yeah,
Now that
I shoot a stand perfect, and I also
okay,
have a stand Onyx that I shoot too. I bought the Onyx halfway through the 3D season just because my perfects is several years old and they don't make them anymore. But I'm just now starting to shoot the Onyx because I didn't want to change mid season.
right. So what I did on my release is I took that knurled knob off. I don't have it on there at all. It serves no function for me. Now, when I'm using my release, uh, mine actually locks on. I can remember where my camera is, so I can put it around my string and lock it on. Oh, if I can get it around the string, this is not the correct stuff for it, but there we go. Now, when I put it in there, I bury it clear into my hand. I don't know if you can see, but it goes right there at the base of the thumb and the index
Right,
finger, right in that little pocket there. And now I have it buried in pretty deep into my hand. Now with on this one, I have a little part of the metal there. I can squeeze on that as hard as I want. It won't go off. So I can have there. I'm making a tight fist, but I'm not gripping my hand together. Now as I pull through, as I'm pulling, it just goes off. I don't have to use my thumb because
right,
just that motion will make it fire. And that's something that I've kind of worked on over the years and, uh, just kind of pulling through. And I have a real hard spring in Carter come with three different springs. I put the hardest spring in they make because I want a hard trigger. I don't want to touch it and go off. My son's has
right,
got a real light spring in his, and I go back to his as soon as I touch it, it goes off. I don't want that sensitive of a trigger. Now on my rifles, when I shoot in a rifle team, we wanted them as light as we can because we want to just barely squeeze on them. But that's a little different weapon. So I
right,
put it in there, and as I'm pulling through, my hand doesn't even move, and it goes off. There's nothing moving in my hand, and that's something that helps out some people and doesn't help others, and you just have to try it. And when you're using like the trigger ones with the caliper ones, this one has a little hook on it. And the reason I like that is when I have it on my hand, I can find my string loop, and I can find a loop, run down, and I can hook it to it. The jaws, like this, those you have to open up, find the string, and close on them. And every time I look at it, look my release, and the deer's looking at me when I look back up. And I can fire them both the same way. Now I do the trigger on this one buried clear into my hand. Not you got the tip, the first knuckle, and the second knuckle, and that's where I put the release. So my hand wraps around there, and same thing. I just put a little pressure
right,
on it and pull through. This I
right,
put a little pressure on it to start with. If I don't put any pressure, I won't go off. That one I don't have to really. It's just in my hands. So pressure's automatically there, and that's just some of the things that I do. I put my releases here because I seem to talk about them a lot. So I just
right.
put
Might
them
as
here
well
instead of
have
being
them.
downstairs. It's like I got them here. Let me put them here. And
Yeah, I should have had mine in here with me, but mine's hanging on the back of my it's in my quiver on the back of my seat of my truck.
oh,
But yeah, I like that's one thing I like about the stand releases too, because I shoot the same release for hunting that I do when I'm shooting 3D competitions. And I just when I get in my stand and I'm set in, I clip the release on the string and it stays there till I'm ready to shoot. I just reach up and grab it.
that's what I do with this one because it locks around it. And now then, in order to find it, I just put the string between my index finger and my ring finger, slide it down, hits the release, and I know where my release is. I can find it. I can do everything. I don't have to ever look at my bow until I'm up at full draw. I don't have to look at it. And then the same thing with this one because it doesn't have a jaw on it. Now this is an old Scott. I've had this probably 30 years and was used when I got it
Yeah,
from a friend of mine that was a rep for Scott Archery. And of course, he upgraded new ones, and I bought it. And this is 30 plus years old, and it still works just fine.
I've
And
got an
my
old Scott mongoose that I keep in my hunting pack. I know I've had it since I was a teenager. It's
yeah,
it's 30 something years old.
yeah,
You know,
and I
you buy quality products and they last as long as
oh
you don't
yeah,
drop them in creeks and stuff like that. But you
yeah.
take care of them the way you're supposed to, they'll last forever.
I did lose one of my Carter releases one time in the field. I put it in my bibs when I was walking out, got there, and it was gone. And I did actually lose this one once, but I know where I lost it because I had it on the track, and I went back, and sure enough, there it was sitting right where we'd parked. So I didn't lose it twice. I just lost it once and got it back.
Right.
But I hunt with the handheld, and then I carry the Scott as a release as a backup. Then I also carry this other True Fire one as a emergency backup because I don't like shooting it. But when it gets really cold up here in Nebraska in the wintertime, all I need is my index finger out of the glove. So I have one that I can have just that finger out so I can feel it. I need to be able to feel it. But with the handheld, I have to be able to feel it in my whole hand. So
Right.
that glove is kind of pretty much shot. Just there's a little bit of a mesh on the back of my hand. You know, them knitted cotton ones on the back of my hand and a little bit on the palm. There's not much of it left, but I can feel my release because if I can't feel my release, I don't know what I'm going, doing with it. So
Yeah. I'll tell you what I did this past year hunting in Illinois. Got in the stand and had deer coming in underneath me, and I had two deer in the upper 120s. One was probably a 130-inch deer, and I get ready to make a shot, and my release is not on my string. It's still in my
oh no,
bino pouch,
oh
but
no,
I was still able to get it out, and I made a shot on a deer, and I did get him. So, um, but it was a bad feeling when I reached up to grab my release on my bow and it wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, at first I thought I had knocked it off and it was probably on the ground, but it was still in my bino harness. So,
you're lucky there.
oh yes, it was. I was lucky to get a shot with two of them standing there, but
Yeah, that's why I carry a couple of backups. I have dropped my Carter out of the tree stand. It's like I'm not going down to get it. Just got my other one strapped it on because I shoot them. There's really no difference in the way I shoot them because you're anchoring different. I take the punching knuckle right in that pocket behind your jaw, below the ear, with that it's the pressure point there. And then when I have my handheld, it's my ring knuckle that ends up there. But because I use the kisser button and the peep, and then touching my nose, the peep and kiss, all that all lines up. If that's lined up, it doesn't matter what my hand's doing. So I can
right,
shoot either release the same. It's just how it twists on it and makes it nice that way. Some people can't shoot them the same like that because they're depending on an anchor point or something on their face, and the anchor point on my face is just like the fourth point in contact of my face.
right, yeah, and you know, when you get used to using things like kisser buttons and all, and I never used a kisser button up until probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I was in the stand one year and about 3 years ago, and I drew back on a deer, and something didn't feel right. I couldn't get my anchor, and I was like, what? And so I kind of looked back, and my kisser button was gone,
Oh,
and I didn't even realize I used it until when I drew back and it wasn't there. So
yeah,
you kind of get used to those things too. And I really didn't even. I just kind of thought it was just. I mean, it was on my string, and I didn't really realize I paid that much attention to it. But when I drew back on that deer, it didn't feel right, you know. So
yeah, yeah. That's um, something when you get used to doing something over and over and over and over, and muscle memory, and we go through that. In martial arts, we do a technique so many times that it's just a reaction.
yeah,
You don't have
you,
to
you
think about it.
you'll have people ask you on your shot and stuff like, well, how do you do when you draw your bow? How do you? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me get my bow and see. I'll draw, and I'm like, they're like, okay, yeah, that's what I was talking about. And it's just you do it so much that and it and if everything falls into place and it fits. I don't know. It ain't like I focus on that every time I draw. So it just, everything fits in place.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for is to be such a habit that you don't even think about it. I know, a good example of that is when I was younger, I had a 20 gauge JC Higgins bolt action shotgun, and the safety was right there at the thumb, and I never consciously put it on or took it off, but I always walked with the safety on so that the pheasant gets up as it coming up, my thumb would catch the safety, and then I'd shoot, come back down, and safety go back on. So a hen gets up. Well, hen, the rooster pops up. My safety's on. How did my safety get on? Because I started back down, my thumb automatically caught that safety and put the safety on before I was even all the way down. And I didn't have a chance to reset that automatic safety that in my mind, my physical safety is just up, safety off, shoot, coming down, safety on. Safety was always on unless I was ready to pull the trigger.
Yep.
And yeah, it just for so long. And then I got a wing master. I could never get safe. I could never hit a bird because I couldn't get safety off because it's one of those finger ones. I think
Right.
behind the trigger. I think it was behind the trigger, and I could never. It's like, forget it, because I'm not walking around with the safety off.
Right.
Just
Right.
like
Yeah.
we
You
don't we
don't.
don't walk we don't walk around with full draw on the bow.
Right.
For one, it's not going to stand there too long, but yeah, there's too much chance of something going on. So we was talking a little bit earlier. You started a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Okay. Me and some guys down here, we're all involved in the Bow Hunters of Alabama, which is, it's our statewide, um, 3D archery organization.
We're going to bring it up for the viewers to see it as we're talking about it.
And, BHA is also, we also have a ASA chapter involved with them too, at the state level. But, a couple of years ago, somebody had mentioned something about a podcast, and then me and Joey Tomlinson, he's the main host that we have on there, and then we've got James Hornbuckle and Wes Patterson, um, Blake Turner. Um, because we're scattered all over the state, so it's with us having us more than one person doing it. If we go to a shoot and the other guys aren't there, we can still do a podcast. So it works out pretty well. But
Yeah.
we started it. All we're trying to do is it's Alabama Archery. It's anything archery. Most of our episodes have been mainly on 3D competitions because that's what we were doing when we started it back in, I think, June. And we're fixing to start launching, you know, podcast about hunting and things like that. So, but it's just anything archery. I mean, we're gonna have we have kids on there. We have pro archers on there. We've got just local shoots. We have Joy's took his mic and walked out on the range while guys are out there competing and just go talk to them about their equipment and how their day's going and how they're shooting. And it's just kind of to give everybody an insight of really what 3D archery is and see how everybody's out there having a good time and supporting each other.
Yeah, it looks like you've got some pretty cool titles already, and you got a really good start, and
Yeah, we've
on the
got one in
range and
there.
filming.
The very first one we did, it was an on site up in Lee County, Alabama. They were a new club this year, and we just took the stuff. We went shot around, then we set up at a table and did a podcast. That was the very first one, um, and it turned out pretty good, I thought. And
Yeah,
then
it's
there's another one on there. If you see it, it's called The Battle. That right there, we had the guys that I shot with for Shooter of the Year at the ASA Classic in our peer group. We had three of the four of us on that podcast, and we kind of talked about um that whole shoot that day or that weekend because it was this whole year. Me and those two guys, we competed, and our scores were within 1 point of each other at events. And
oh, that's
so to
that's good.
come down to winning Shooter of the Year, it came down to the last two targets, and I was able to win it by 1 point. And then second place was only 1 point over third place. So we had it's a pretty good podcast to listen to.
Yeah, we'll have to uh, listened to a few of them here, and there looks like you've got some pretty good stuff. Like the judging for a newbie. Judging
Yep.
your that's always the hard thing to do.
Yep. It's that one we did that one just launched last week, and I didn't even know Joy had done that one. He called me up and says, "Hey, I just uploaded a podcast I did with Lee Carter. Lee and his dad, Phil Carter, he's been in archery for, I don't know, man. He's been competing probably 30 something years. But they run the Chelsea Archery Club up in Chelsea, Alabama. And Lee shoots. He's always shot unknown, and he's pretty knowledgeable about how, he I got some ideas from him because I shoot known classes. I'm usually 6 to 8 yards off when I'm judging. I don't know what it
Oh,
is. It's I just haven't done it enough. When rangefinders come out, it ruined me from judging. I used to could judge, and that's the way I did. But when rangefinders come out and hunting with them and all that, I got out of the habit of looking at a target and how far is it. So now a lot of times when we go shoot, especially this local stuff, we'll judge and then range it just to see how close we are.
right.
So,
That's the way you should use a rangefinder, is not to tell you what it is, to judge it on your own, shoot it and see what you did, and then verify that you did it right.
right.
One of the things that I do in judging yardage is uphill and downhill is always a challenge. Now, the downhill is actually easier than uphill because you can find a little more reference in there. But so the thing that you need to learn is what a 3-4-5 triangle is. Carpenters know that
Yep.
real easy. So what you have is, if you have a triangle, let's say where you're at the base of your tree, you're on a hill. So that takes you up, say, 40 yards. And now where the trail is going straight line, for if you could go straight down to the level of the trail, is at 30 yards. So if you're going to look from where you're at to where the other one is, going to look like it's 50 yards. So what do you shoot it for? Well, most people shoot it for 50 yards because that's what it looks like. No, you just shot over by 20 yards. You completely missed it. It's actually 30 yards.
Yeah.
Because the arrow only cares about horizontal travel. It doesn't care that it went 200 yards downhill. It only cares how far it went horizontally, because that's what gravity works, straight down. Gravity don't work at an angle. It always works straight down. Now, going uphill, you don't have that reference. You can kind of say, okay, I'm there. So what I do is, when I'm judging one of those, I'll look for a tree on the ground right by the trail is, and I'll follow it all the way up until it's level with where I'm at. Now I'm going to judge that tree by looking straight across. And now then what I judge that tree to be is what the trail is. Now, rangefinders, they take that angle, they know the angle you're shooting and the distance it's on, and so it compensates for you. Which is one of those things that, unless you do a lot of shooting from elevated and, and lower platform shooting uphill and downhill, you're not going to learn that very well unless you go out and practice it.
Right.
Yeah.
That angle compensator in those rangefinder it works pretty well too.
Yeah. And I used that. I was actually on a hill on a ladder stand. So I was 15 feet up on top of the hill. And I did that. I judged the tree that was on the trail to be 20 yards. Well, when the deer come by, it thing looked like it was 40 yards away. It was small compared to what I knew it was. I shot it for 20 yards and I got it because I knew that trail was 20 yards. So I used my 20-yard pin. Now, of course, my target was really little because it was probably 40 or 50 yards what it looked like, as far as the size of the deer. But I knew it was at that distance. I knew it was that shorter distance. Now, if you're on the ground, then there's no compensation you have to worry about. But in those elevated platforms, and you're always elevated, unless you're shooting out of ground blind.
Right. Right. And I that's what I shoot elevated most of the time. I have a few ground blinds, but I like to get up and see.
Yeah, so do I. You can be seen a little bit easier, but if you have your stand set up the right way so you're not silhouetted, then it definitely helps, and you can see more and you can move a little bit more. And they come in behind you and you're sitting in a chair, how do you get turned around without making noise? And then shooting out of a blind, one thing people don't realize is shooting them short distances. A lot of people shoot through their blind because they don't know how to shoot something that's 3 feet away. And
Right.
3 feet away, you might have to shoot to 70 or 80 yards to hit that at 3 feet. Because the thing that you don't realize, unless you listen to the podcast, I've told it before, but your eyes and your pins are up here at your eye level. Where's your arrow leaving? Down here by your mouth, which is, good 4 or 5 inches lower. So as you put your pin on that target, you want to look and see what that 60 and 70-yard pin is, because that's where you're actually going to hit when you're at that close. And then use that same thing when you're shooting through cover. If I have a target that's 40 yards away, so I am at 40 yards, but I have my 20-yard pin is hitting a branch that's 20 yards away, I'm going to hit that branch because your arrow arcs over and comes down. So it actually
Right.
climbs a little bit and then drops down. But
Yeah.
we've all hit tree branches.
Oh yeah. You hit them and you don't even know they're there sometimes.
Yeah, I've done that. Didn't even see the branch.
Yeah.
First time I shot a Luminoc and it went flying somewhere.
Yeah.
Didn't even try to look for it.
I've left the arrow up in the woods up in Illinois. Shot at a pretty decent deer, and I still to this day don't know where the arrow went. It hit it about 30. The deer was around 32, 33 yards, and somewhere out there around 27, 28 yards was a branch, and it hit it and it was gone.
Yeah, I had one time I was on top of a hill and then deer come walking across the hill and I shot at it. And somehow I don't know what I did. Must not have aimed or something. Shot over its back. I heard it hit a tree. So now, in order to get to that arrow, if I could find which tree it was in, I'm probably going to have to climb up 40, 50 yards to get to the arrow. I didn't even look for it. Um, and I still got the deer because the deer run to my left, turned around towards me, and come back to look where it heard that sound way off to the right of it. So I was able to load another arrow, and I still was able to get it. But because
Yeah.
the noise it heard was it hitting the tree on the other side to the right of it, and I moved to the left of it.
Yep. That worked in your favor.
Yeah, not very often it does, but that time it did.
Yeah, and then sometimes like that when that happens, sometimes if it doesn't startle them, they're curious. They want to come back and see what was that? What made that noise? I think
Yeah,
that's how they learn and how they survive. Is sometimes except when they screw up and there's a hunter there, they come back.
yeah,
But
yeah. Just like one area that around here that a lot of people hunt, they they've had so many not the best hunters. They've trained the deer to look up. The only place I know of where the deer walk the trails and constantly looking up. They're constantly looking up in the trees because there have been so many times they've been hunters caught in the trees, and so now they're aware of a predator that's above them.
yeah, the deer in Alabama look up. I can tell you that they look up. I don't know why. Even at the club I hunt, this at least 350 acres, and we don't pressure to the deer a lot, but we've been hunting this place 5 or 6 years now. But when the deer they look up, so maybe somebody's
Yeah,
been hunting in my stand, been training them. I don't know.
could be. Yeah, that's why when here in Nebraska, anyway, on public property, if you hang a stand, first come, first serve. It's public
Yeah,
property. If somebody's in your tree stand when you get there, nothing you can do. You got to go find someplace else. So what I do is I put the pegs in, get the stand up there, and on the one I had, there's a chain that you locked it on. Well, I'd fold the platform up, wrap the chain around it, put my padlock on. So it was locked in the up position. So you couldn't sit in it unless you had the key or you cut the lock off of there to do that. So I'd go up, I'd unlock it and put it down and climb my tree stand. Get down, I'd put it up, run the chain through it, lock it. So
right.
you couldn't get in my tree stand. But a ladder stand, you can't really do that too well.
Well, I'm not gonna go on public land and get into anybody's portable stand that's hanging on a tree. I want to know what that thing's been through and made of.
Right.
way this world is now is crazy. Somebody could sabotage you.
Yeah. Well, and then just over time they can break. I know we had tree stands up in an area for quite a while, and then we had to take our stands down, and I'm taking pegs out, and one of my pegs actually broke when I'm trying to unscrew it.
Yeah, and you need to
And
check your stuff. I mean, there's a guy I went to high school with. Um, was it this past season? It may have been the season before. He was he actually was climbing up into a hang on stand and had to climbing up the ladder stick, and he got up to the top, and I think he actually was coming down. But when he was coming down, one of the rungs, when he grabbed it with his hand, it come off, and he fell out of
oh
the tree.
yeah.
It banged him up pretty bad. And I think broke some collarbones and stuff like that. But he's okay.
Well,
But it's a good learning experience for me to check this stuff because most of these ladders you put on these trees, they're coated on the outside, but they're not necessarily coated on the inside, so they're going to rust from the inside out.
right. You're not going to know. And that's why, actually, last year at the Nebraska's Missouri Valley Outdoor Expo, which is held actually this coming, well, actually, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to it for this weekend. So it's the 19th and 20th and 21st of September up at Ponca State Park, and pull a plug in for it. I'll be up there helping out with the aerial archery, for the weekend. But last year I talked to the tree stand hunter safety guys. That's a volunteer position. These guys have done these for a long time. And one of the things I interviewed them for about an hour. It's on one of my podcasts here, about a year ago. And the most of the accidents are caused by homemade tree stands.
Yeah.
And a tree stand is they're only rated, they're good for 5 years. That's what they're saying anyway.
Right.
And one of the things he said is you need to have a lifeline. See, if you'd had a lifeline on there, but you can get a 3-pack for, I don't know, what are they, 60, 80 bucks, 100 bucks, something for a 3-pack of them. And you hook to that Persix knot. And as you're climbing up, you're constantly moving it up.
I
And when
have
you're
them
coming,
on every one of my stands, and I
yeah.
love it.
And then
That's the
you're not
best
going to,
thing they have ever started using and selling.
oh yeah. Yeah. And you're going to use them if you have them on your tree stand, and coming down, that would have stopped you. Now, with that being said, just because your harness saved you, it's going to kill you.
Right.
If you hang there too long, you're going to build up acids in your body. And when you finally get down, those acids are going to rush to your body. You probably have a heart attack anyway. So
Well,
that's why
oh,
you always have an extra little loop to relieve the pressure. And the one guy was saying, have an extra Persix, an extra lifeline you wrap around you, and you hook it into a carabiner. Now you have that to release it. And then he showed a technique of tying slip knots as close as you can together. You stand on the top one, stand up, lower your knot, step down to your next one, and then it pops the first one down, so you can descend through your lifeline. Takes a while.
yep.
You got to learn how to do it because it's not easy.
On my safety harness, you can get these I don't know what they're called. They're like stirrups, but they sell them with um fall restraints like at anybody that climbs, say, poles or whatever. They have these things. They're on their lineman stuff, and then that way, if they fall, they can just unzip this little pouch, and it comes out, and you got stirrup. You really only
Yeah.
need one, but I have two on mine.
Oh, that's so you can stand up relief off both of them.
Yeah, if I got it right here in my closet on the other side of my camera. I could get it and show it to you if you'd like to see it, but it's it's never had to use it. Hope I don't. But it's like you
Yeah.
say, if you fall, you have got to take that tension off your legs because it'll kill you. It won't take long.
No, I think he said it was like 5 minutes. I'll leave a link
Yeah.
to that podcast in here, and wherever it shows up when I put this out here, I'll leave a link to that podcast as well, because that's good to information. And we talked to him for over an hour, the first morning of the event last year, and there was a lot of information, a lot of stuff I didn't even realize. And I started out, we didn't have safety belts of any kind. And
Right.
then we got one with just a belt that wrapped around your waist and hooked to it.
I've been
That
there.
one has done much. And now you got the full body harnesses with the going around the legs and the shoulders and snaps in front and then you have the all the loops and stuff on there and that's
You got
a lot
pockets.
nicer.
You got built-in phone chargers, and you got everything in them now.
Oh, yeah, mine don't have any built-in phone chargers. And the other
If you
thing you
get you
brought up,
a Hunter Safety Systems, the Elite Pro, it's got a built-in charger for your phone. You have
oh,
to you have to put a battery pack in it, but it's got the built-in um it's got the built-in cable.
oh, that's pretty
So
cool.
that way you can play Candy Crush.
Yeah, or keep your phone handy in case you need it. And
That's right.
the other thing you said is make sure you always keep your phone in an outside pocket so you can always get to your phone. Because if it's like in an inside pocket or back pocket, you may not be able to get to your phone. So now you're hanging there. You have no way to call anybody because it's not in the right place. So make sure you put it in an outside pocket so you can get to it. And like that with the phone charger in your vest pocket, you're going to have it in that pocket.
Right. I have a I have a tether that I attached to my phone. So if I did fall, was hanging upside down and it fell out of a pocket or something, my phone is still attached to me.
Yeah. Well, my phone case has got a little bitty little spot and it's got a hole in it. I could put a tether in there too. It wouldn't be very big, but don't need much.
No, you don't need much. The one I probably got it off of eBay, and it's got the little rubber. It like encases the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Like you stretch it over the four corners of the phone, and then it's tethered, and it's on like the old phone cords,
Yeah.
kind of springy. But
Yeah, my case is a big heavy one. It's metal and then this here is doesn't slide very well. So I put it on a table something. You can't slide my phone. It won't even slide. So put it in my pocket. I gotta make sure to turn it upside down to get the smooth side go. Otherwise, it won't go in my pocket.
right,
Because that rubber in there just keeps it from sliding in. And some of your pockets aren't really big enough because it added quite a bit of width and length to my phone when I put it on that one. But it's a big heavy case. My phone weighs a ton, it seems like.
yeah. When we started this our podcast and stuff, I went ahead and upgraded my phone and got it's an iPhone, but it's the 16 Pro Max. So it's got the 4K cameras and 1 terabyte of memory or whatever. I don't know all that stuff. I'm not a tech guy, but um, at the time it was like probably the better of all of them for iPhones, and that way we could do it like doing these podcasts and stuff. We can do it, and I have no issues.
Yeah. Well, my phone has got a real good camera in it. Most of my videos, now I don't use it on my podcast because I have a Logitech 920 camera that also that's where my speaker is right now. I don't have a separate one like you do. Yet my desk isn't quite big enough for it.
I'm just on a card table.
Yeah.
It's nothing fancy, I promise.
Yeah, well, I've got on my tower, I've got I don't have a laptop anymore. I just got a tower that sits on the desk over the other side, and I got three monitors on my desk that's hooked to it. So you're on the middle monitor, and then I have a monitor over here and a monitor over here.
Right?
And
Yeah,
I'm always using multiple monitors when I'm doing stuff.
it's amazing the stuff that you pick up when you start doing this thing. I've got a little soundboard. That's what my mic is. My mic and my earphones are tapped into, and I've got the tripod that I got my phone on. It's a 360-degree tripod, so like it's got a tracking feature on it. So if I move, it turns.
Oh yeah,
So
that's why every once in a while it moves because it thought it detected you moving.
yeah, yeah,
I
it'll
always
move.
thought about I see them advertise things you can set on your tripod that will track you and stuff, and I'd always thought about maybe getting one of those because a lot of times I'm doing it's like it's always I'm over here and then I'm moving and then I'm out of the picture and then you go back in and
Yep, this one just it'll follow you wherever you go.
oh
360 degrees. You can go all the way. I can just sit here and walk in circles, and it'll follow me the whole way. So it works good for this stuff because I don't sit
yeah
still. You see, I'm moving constantly.
yeah
So
Now, is
it
that
won't.
part of the tripod, or is that an extra device that you added to top the tripod?
It's a device um that mounts to the tripod,
Yeah, it
and
looks
then
like it
your
works pretty good.
phone just attaches to the top of it, and then of course I got the two little lights on the side of that, so it works good.
Yeah, you'll have to send me a link to what you used, and so I can check it out. Because I've been thinking about that for some of my stuff I'm doing. Is it'd be nice to have it follow me because I'm constantly moving around. I don't, some of the videos I'm doing, I'm moving around, and it's constantly it's like, okay, chopped my head off, and another one it's like, okay, you got just my shoulder, and
You don't see something else cool that this thing will do? If if say I'm going to move and I don't want it to track me, I can hold my hand right here and it stops it. And if I move, it won't follow me. And then when I'm ready for it to track me again, I give it the OK signal. And now it tracks me again.
oh yeah,
It's kind of neat.
I seen for an ad on I don't know, it was Facebook or YouTube where he was talking about his camera. He's walking around in circles, and he did that same thing. You hold your hand up, and then okay, and then it'll track you again. And
They ain't but
but
like $30 off the TikTok shop.
oh well, that's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean it's cheap. I think this one with the lights and everything was like 30 to $40, I think.
Oh yeah, I'll have to check it out because it'd be nice to be able to um, do the videos. And here a lot of times I'm moving around and I'm going to different sides, but you know I'm pretty much stationary sitting in my chair. But it'd be kind
Yeah.
of nice to have that when I'm doing some videos.
I've got a TikTok channel too. I got a
Oh
few
yeah,
videos on there that talks about some of the things like we were talking about earlier, practicing and stuff.
yeah,
Um, like trying to overcome target panic. I like I shoot on my back patio at night when it's dark,
oh yeah,
and I got a target set up at 8 yards, and I'll draw back and I'll focus on looking at the dot that's on the target and trying to keep my pen staying on the dot or inside a circle or whatever, and then execute a good shot. And that has really helped me with target panic on, especially shooting like a Vegas target. I can go shoot a Vegas round now, and it's my pen it'll never leave the 10 ring.
well that's
Now
good.
I don't always hit the 10, but it stays in there pretty well. So
Yeah.
little
What's the
stuff
name of
like
your
that.
what's your TikTok handle there? I'll look it up. Well,
I think it's Richard Fleming 6913. I think that's what it is.
oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's it. Well,
And
let's
then
just
and then I don't know if I had the video on there or not, but there's another good thing too, and I've got a video of it. I just need to upload it to it if it's not on there. But talking about knowing your effective range.
oh
When you go
yeah,
hunt, when you go hunting, you don't get warm up shots. You get one shot. So I the video I got on there that's about your effective range is I walked out in my backyard and had a deer target set at 50 yards, and I drew back and shoot it. And if you can't consistently do that, just do it once a day for like a week. And
right,
if you can't consistently hit that target where you need to be hitting it, that's not your effective range. You need to shorten it.
right.
If you can't go out there and shoot 10 arrows and go, okay, now I'm on now. You gotta know what you're able to do.
Well, it's like when I go to like tournaments and stuff. They got a practice range. You know, warm up? No, why
Yep.
not? I don't get to warm up when I shoot a deer. I get to pull my bow back a couple times. That's about it. But I don't shoot.
Yeah.
So,
I don't shoot a whole lot. The biggest thing I've done at competitions, I've got to where I go and shoot at the elite known. It's a 10 target, like a side competition. And I go shoot it more or less to get my mental game in
right.
focus for the competition that I'm about to shoot. So I do
And
I do that. But as far as sitting out there and just shooting at bags and shoot them and shoot them and shoot them, I don't do a lot of that.
yeah, when you're when you're going through and learning the technique and getting it down to where I shoot at spots in order to develop my technique, knowing that I can hit that spot. I know the yardage because you're just 20 yards or whatever it is, and you're shooting. And now I know I can execute that shot. And then I like to go to 3Ds, unknown yardage. And because now that helps me judge yardage for hunting. And all this is just to hunt better.
Right.
You know, I, some people like the target archery. Yeah, I'd rather go 3D. I'm not that much into the target archery. I'd be more into 3D archery because it's more like hunting, and I just think it's a little bit more fun. But um, yeah, each archer
But
has their own thing they like. Some like the field archery, some like the ASA, and some like ISO, and some like just regular backyard shooting. And whatever
yeah,
you like is good.
well, I can tell you one thing that shooting competitive 3D has done for me is it's got my confidence when shooting a bow is pretty good. Like when I go
Right,
hunting, you know, I don't even think about the possibility of missing. Now it can happen. It does happen.
right.
But that thought of, man, I might miss this deer. That never
Yeah,
crosses my mind when I'm hunting because I've done shot. I don't know. I don't know how many arrows I shoot a year, but it's a lot. And so, and then competing, you're shooting, you draw your bow, and although you're trying to hit rings on the deer, and it ain't necessarily where you're gonna try to shoot a live animal,
no,
but you're used to seeing an animal through your peep sight, through your sight on your bow, and it really builds your confidence.
yeah, I know. Like the first time I shot at 3D, was an indoor one, and you kind of get that little nerve in there. You're shooting at a foam target, but you've got to get used to seeing that animal in there.
Yep.
I know, like one of the things that they did some research in, like in World War One, how many soldiers actually fired and shot at another person, and it was very low percentage. World War Two come out a little bit better. They started shooting at silhouette targets in practice, and then more would be used because they're seeing that silhouette in there. And then now with the the newer stuff, it's a little bit higher percentage, but because you're used to shooting at the target. If you're always used to shooting it at foam animal targets, and all of a sudden you get a paper target, it's like it's different. The visual is different, and that's where the mental game comes in.
Right.
You just get if you focusing only on where you want the arrow to go, it doesn't matter what's around it.
Yep. And and you bring a good point there, like talking about those guys. They weren't necessarily shooting at people because they weren't looking at the silhouette. That's like when you're hunting. You're not necessarily going to ever see the whole deer at first. You got to look for horizontal lines, like the back of the deer. You'll see stuff like that before you will the deer itself, or even like ear flickers. You see the white of the ear, but deer don't walk upright, so you got to look for horizontal lines when you're hunting, so you can spot them.
Yeah,
It,
that's
it, and
that's
I'm
where the
speaking
practice
from
comes in.
that's right, and I'm speaking from bow hunting because usually when I go hunting, it's usually with a bow. I will gun hunt, but I mostly bow hunt.
Yeah, I think it's more fun.
It's just it's a challenge. It's a lot more challenging. It's a lot harder.
Yeah, it is. Quite a bit harder. You know,
If it was just all about I got to do it to eat and survive, we might do something a little different.
right. If you have multiple seasons where you have an archery season, but yet you have a separate season you can shoot guns, and then maybe it changes again. Like here in Nebraska, archery opens up first. Well, actually, archery now stays open the from September through December. It used to shut down during the 9 days of rifle, but now it doesn't. But you just have to orange. So, if you've got like the different seasons, take your deer in archery, and if you don't, you still got the rifle season to take one, and then muzzleloader seasons. You have all those different seasons, and that's the nice thing about it is you can pick whatever works best for you. If you've got the time and spend days and days, archery hunting and, maybe get one or two deer, then it's fine. If you don't have the time to spend, well, maybe you need to look at a rifle, or maybe a crossbow because you don't have time. If you don't have a lot of time to practice to be proficient with the compound or recurve, maybe a crossbow is your solution to get in the field.
Right. Yep. Yeah, because you definitely, you owe that animal to be as proficient as you can with your bow. So if you're going to bow hunt, you need to practice.
Right. Well, and one thing you talked about earlier, I was going to mention something I get sidetracked, which is normal, about what's your effective range. When you look at go put a target out at 20 yards and shoot it at 15 yards, shoot it at 25 yards. Where's your arrow hitting? Can you consistently keep it in? Well, they say what a 6-inch kill zone, but when
Yep.
I was helping archers, no, we don't have a 6-inch kill zone or 8-inch kill zone. We've got a smaller kill zone. This is where you got to keep your arrows, because if your kill zone is 8 inches and you can keep them in that 8-inch group, if you're off by 5 yards, you now have probably a 10-inch group.
Right.
So you need to be, where can you keep a 3-inch group? Basically on a 5-spot target, you need to be able to keep it in the white. Every shot has to go in the white. Now, preferably in the center, but every shot has to go in the white. And where can you shoot and consistently keep it in the white on the 5-spot? I think on the 3-spot, it's the yellow's the center one or something. I don't shoot 3 spots too often, and I got lots of 5-spot targets. And if you can keep it in that at different ranges and start off at a distance, have it, back where you can shoot, start off early, go up close and shoot, go back, and back and back. And where can you keep it in that spot? Now, as you get back further, you might have to switch to your 30-yard pad or your 40-yard pad. And, where can you consistently keep that in that white? If you can't keep it in the white on the 5-spot target, that's not you can't shoot that range. And
Right.
just being off by 5 yards can throw it off by 2-3 inches.
Right. And then, like when I was talking about it, knowing your effective range, I said, I walked out back and shoot it at a deer target at 50 yards. Now I don't want to shoot a deer at 50 yards. I want to shoot a deer at 20, 30 yards. So, but if I know I can hit consistently, like you say, in that group at 50 yards, it's going to make that closer shot that much easier.
Right.
So, I mean, I've shot long shot competitions with my hunting bow, and I've won them at 90 yards. I've won them at 110 yards. It's just, but I don't want to shoot an animal that far. I'm not going. I'm
No.
not going to shoot one that far for sure. But I mean, we're in competition. We know we're shooting at 50 yards. You shoot 50-yard classes. We're shooting at a circle on the side of an animal that's about the size of a $50, maybe a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
So it makes you focus, and that's why I say 3D shooting 3D competitions. It'll build your confidence with your bow.
Right. Well, and that's where, when you're practicing, you want to practice at different yardage, practice at your 20 and then go back to 30, go back to 40. And it's kind of interesting, when I was, many years ago, I'd shoot at 20, keeping a good group, go back to 30, keep the same, keep a good tight group, go back to 40, keep a good tight group. I go back to 20 and I'm trying to put them in the same hole. Because I've been
Right.
back there, you get that focus and you're shooting at 40. Next thing you go up there and you're smacking the nocks and breaking nocks and bending arrows and unibushings. That's when I shoot in aluminum arrows.
Yeah, I don't shoot very many arrows at one spot. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
Um, you see people, they'll shoot 8 or 9 arrows in one spot, and they all of a sudden Robin Hood one. Well, that's, to me, that's not a Robin Hood. You keep shooting them in there, you're gonna hit one sooner or later. But
Yeah.
um,
Well, we need
I'll
to shoot
usually
2 arrows at the same spot and get them. I've got
Right.
a few of those.
Yeah. I've got one or two. Um, and then, you know, once you've done it a few times, I'm done with that.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, our competition arrows are, I don't, they're 25 to $26 a piece, probably once you know, buy the
yeah,
components and build them. And then my hunting arrows are probably 16 to $18 a piece, not counting a broadhead. So I'm not going to tear them up if I can keep from it.
yeah, yeah. We don't want to be doing that. They're expensive. You know, back when I started, it was, uh, um, geez, this has been almost 30 years ago. I was paying uh like $60 a dozen for
Yeah.
Easton's double X 78s and a
Yep.
2512. You know, that's the straightest aluminum you can get. It's a 1.5 thousand straightness. Now your carbons, you can get them at one. And
Right.
that's all I shoot is 1000 carbons. Um,
Yeah. I
yeah.
shoot, I hunt with Easton Axis, the 5 millimeter, and then my target arrows are Easton Super Drive 25s. That's what I shoot. So I started shooting Easton at the beginning, and that's just kind of what I got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When I had my store about 25 years ago, PSE actually was producing arrows. They actually got an aerospace company to manufacture them to their standards. And now they've quit making them because they were really good arrows. And they actually one night I was shooting a broadhead at my store when I was at my store at my broadhead target, and it was late. I was tired. I should have been going home, but it was getting close hunting season. So I shot my broadhead, missed the target, hit the concrete block. Now I go up to the block. The broadhead is sticking in the concrete block. The shaft is broke about an inch back, and the insert cracked in half. So they got the shaft laying on the ground, broadhead stuck in the concrete block, and it cracked it back probably about an inch, inch and a half. 20 yards, 70 pounds, 100 grain Muzzy broadhead. Didn't hurt the broadhead at all.
yeah,
It's in my quiver. I There was nothing done with that except this nice little three-cornered hole it put in the concrete block. Just enough to stick.
yeah. But and that's one thing too, when you're talking about these arrows and hitting stuff like that. With these carbon arrows, you need to make sure that you flex them and check them. We were shooting in ASA Pro Am in Minden, Louisiana, and I was on the bags. I'm going to just shoot, you know, 2 or 3 rounds. I usually shoot about 5. So, you know, so I was going to shoot probably 15 arrows. And some jackleg from down the range is the only thing I could figure happened. He shot across the target and he nicked one of my arrows like halfway, half shaft or so. And I
Yeah.
didn't know it. And I didn't, you know, I didn't check my arrows because I didn't hit them myself. And I draw my bow back and this freaking arrow blows up in my bow on the practice bag. Thought I dry fired my bow. Everybody's like, "Did you dry fire your bow?" And I was like, "No, I had an arrow in it." And there's pieces of arrow everywhere. The 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 arrow actually hit when it after it broke the part that was still on the string. When it came off, it went into my scope on my sight and knocked my scope out about 45 degrees. And I'm supposed to be on the range in 45 minutes to compete.
No.
Yeah. So luckily I had some, I got some good friends. They got me
Yeah.
back going and I went and shot one of my better rounds after that. But I think it was because I was so freaking nervous about an arrow blowing up that my focus was good, you
Yeah.
know, but that was kind of hectic. But I just check your arrows if you shoot, if you hit them or if you think you hit them, flex them when you're walking back to get ready to shoot again because they will blow up on you.
Yeah. And you don't want it going through your hand or your arm, that's for sure.
No, I was lucky that it didn't hit me.
Yeah,
So,
because your arm's in the way.
yep. Look, mine went up. Luckily, it went up and it didn't come down, you know, on the grip. And you're
Yeah.
talking, I mean, you're talking what from the arrow to where you're gripping the bow, where the grip is, an inch,
Inch. Yeah, an inch.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not even that far if you choke up, you know, high up on it, as far as your fingers and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I was at a indoor shoot when I was shooting aluminums, and it seemed like I'd have one arrow would be off. It's like 5-pointer. Rest of them are, getting tens and eights, all of a sudden five. So finally I just say, okay, spin my arrow, good. Spin an arrow, it's bent. I was shooting a bent arrow. So of
Yep.
course I made sure I didn't get that one back in the cycle because I just grab one and shoot, grab one and shoot, and I kind of seem to grab the same ones over and over just because in front of the quiver and there I lost points because I had a bent arrow.
Yep. And it happens with these competition arrows. If you hit one, sometimes like the little inserts, the field points basically, but the little
Yeah,
inserts, or somebody may pull one out of a target, it may stay in there. Well, when you come up behind them, if you hit the same hole, you could hit it, and it'll throw your arrows off at the end of your tip gets bent and stuff. It'll
yeah.
wobble. So I mean, if you're only wanting to hit a pie plate, you're probably still good. But when you're shooting 50 yards trying to hit a $50, it's no good.
No.
So I'm I'm blessed though. I got good equipment that I shoot. I got good sponsors that help me, and um, everything's working out.
Yeah.
So
Hey, you earlier before we started, he was talking about a new um, vendor that you're repping for that's actually on your shirt. Tell us
yeah,
about
yeah.
how that come about that you started um, sponsoring them.
Well, I've shot Q2I veins from Q2I Archery. I've shot them for probably, I don't know, 4 years, 3 or 4 years, and I just got to talking to them, and they picked me up, or I pick them up. They accepted me or whatever as a sponsor for me this year. So I'm going to shoot for them and represent them this year. A couple of other ones I got is Red Custom Bowstrings. I've been shooting their strings for about like the same amount of time, and you get to meet these people when you go to these shoots and walking through the vendor village and stuff. And so I shoot for Q2I Archery. I shoot for Red's Custom Bowstrings, Archery Unlimited, Elite. I've been shooting a Matthews bow for the last 6 years, ever since I started competing. And I've met Nathan Brooks, got to know him pretty well, and they got their bows back in our shop at Archery Unlimited. And um, he had mentioned to the shop owner that he'd like for me to shoot an Elite if I would. And I've always liked their products, and I like Nathan. He's as down to earth as you ever gonna meet for somebody that shoots. He's been shooting pro level forever and works with the outdoor group. And so in 2026, I'm gonna start my pro career with an Elite Victra. It's right here. This is a this is a fine shooting bow. I This boat come in on Thursday, and I got finished at work and met them at the shop, and we set the bow up. I sighted it in at 20 yards. Went home. Thought I had me a sight tape out to 50. Went to work on Friday. Come back when I got off work on Friday afternoon. Went back out to fine tune it a little bit. Changed the sight tape out to another sight tape. Drove up to Chelsea, Alabama, and shot in the Bow Hunters of Alabama state championship, and won the state championship in the senior known 50 class with that bow. I had it less than 48 hours. So it's a shooter. It holds good. It aims good. I've been very, very pleased with it.
That's always good when you have personal experience because you have ads to say, okay, this is the best bow you can ever have, and so you get it, and it's like, I can't shoot this. Where's beans? And you get another
Right.
one that doesn't advertise it, and then it's like, oh, this I can shoot this great. And I've had that before. I had bows that just could not get set up. When
Well,
I had my
that's like the Matthews title when it come out. We show up at the range and start. That's what I shot. Title 36. It's over here on the couch. I need to sell that bow if anybody wants to buy it. But there's guys out there on the range and they're like, man, how you like the bow? I said, oh, I like it. It shoots well. This, one of my favorite bows I've ever owned, really. And they're like, man, I can't shoot it. And I'm like, why? I don't get it. But that's the thing. There's these bows are so the technology that's in them, and they're so fine tuned that maybe those guys have a they're torquing their bow a little bit or something, and that bow just don't like it. I don't know.
Right.
There's little something that they don't like. I've seen guys put that title down and they go back and pick up their bow tech that they shot the previous year and just wear it out. Now maybe they're not giving it enough time. They're not learning the bow. I don't know, but I run across a lot of people that said they couldn't shoot the title, but I shot it well. I mean, I got my first ASA podiums with that bow. So, um,
Yeah, it's a lot of it's in setup. A lot of it is in the setup of you, not the bow.
yeah,
Um, as I on one front with timeless is the bow is constantly shooting, getting terrible tears. It's always tearing, I don't know, up, down, right. No matter what they do, they've adjusted this, just this. All this stuff messing around with the bow. The one thing they never checked is, are you torquing the bow? Are you gripping that bow when you're
yep,
shooting? Because if you grip the bow, you will torque that bow. You will get a terrible tear. You can have a bow that does perfect holes with the arrow. Start squeezing that grip a little bit. You no longer have good tears. It's just
well,
you're
that
trying to control the bow.
that's like I was talking with Rick Helms, the owner of Archery Unlimited, the other night, and he was talking about some shops won't even they don't paper tune, but Rick and him do, and he'll have people call him up and go, they drop a bow off to get you know new strings or whatever put on and get it all, and they say, all right, I want y'all to paper tune it for me. And then, all right, well, when are you gonna come back and get it? And they're like, Friday. He said, all right, we'll paper tune it then. And like, no, go ahead and do it before I get there. They're like, no, we're gonna paper tune it to you. We're not gonna,
Right.
you know, I paper tune your bow, Roy, and then you grab it and you got a high left tear, and you're like, I thought you paper tuned it. Well, I did. And I shoot it, and it's shooting a bullet hole. It's tuned to me. It's not tuned to you.
Right.
So
And that's where a lot of people come in. They think that paper tuning is the end all to everything.
no, that's a
And
start.
it's the biggest thing that you're going to do is if the bow is set up right so that your arrow is shooting level and plumb to your sight and your bow and everything else is all shooting at the arrow's hooked 90 degrees to your string and everything else. Like you get all that set up, and then shooting through paper, what's that telling you? It might be telling you if you shoot it paper at different distances, say you shoot it at 5 feet, 10, 50, 20, and on down different one, and your arrow is turning left, turning right, turning left, turning right. Well, now that's probably telling you your arrow's underspined. Too
Right.
heavy a tip, you need a lighter tip, you need a stiffer spine arrow. If it's tearing, up and down or left or right, if it's constantly moving, that arrow is flexing. It's going to flex when it leaves that bow. If you ever seen the arrow at high speed, it actually bows a little bit, kind of like a bow, and then
Right.
straightens out because you're not going to take that shaft and make it go forward without some kind of deflection.
That's right.
And that's why the aluminum arrows, when you had those, after you shoot them for a while, their straightness is not even close. You get it tighter grips, just get new arrows because aluminum. And how do you bend a piece of aluminum? Flex it until it finally weakens and breaks. What do you do when
Yeah.
you're shooting it? Flexing it.
Yeah. Every shot.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
shot flexes that arrow, unless you have like if you have a really really stiff arrow, it's not going to get as much deflection, but still it's going to have some, and maybe your bow don't like that, and that's where
Yep.
you got to set all that stuff up. And um, I had when I had my Matthews, oh geez, probably 25 plus years ago. I went down and was when I was at the club in an archery club, and I set it all up, got all set up, went down, so perfect tear. Yeah, that was before I knew how to really set them up. It's like cool. It was a good shooting bow.
Right.
The Q2, I think it was. That's kind of really old bow.
Yeah, that's
And
back
then
in the
when I,
90s, 91 probably.
yeah, it's right in the 90s when I got it. And so then when I got my store, I couldn't be a Matthews dealer because there was one, here in Omaha, there was already one. And so I couldn't be a Matthews dealer, but there was previously a PSE dealer. So I become a PSE dealer, and part of going down to dealer school, you pay all this money, and you got to pick a bow. And I flat out told him, I'm shooting a Matthews Q2. Which one should I be shooting? This is good or better. And that's when I got the Carrera. Not only was it rated about 15 feet per second faster, but I actually like shooting it better. So I sold the Matthews. Being a PSA dealer, how can I shoot a Matthews bow?
Well,
It was a good shooting bow, but I actually like the Carrera better. I still have it.
back in that the Q2 days, I was I just always thought I had to have the fastest, or I wanted the fastest bow on the market. And so in the Q2 days, I bought an Ultra 2, which was a hunting bow, but it was a speed bow. I was not accurate with that bow. The string hit my arm every time I shot. It not bad, but it just would touch me every time I shot because the brace height was so short on that bow.
Yeah.
But remember back in the old days, we used to get the catalogs in the mail, and the PSE had the baby G. It was
Oh
like
yeah.
it was like the boy dog. I used to want one so bad. Never bought one.
That baby G, you either loved it or hated it. There was no in between.
But
Either you
I
shot
can
it good or
imagine.
you couldn't shoot it at all.
Yep.
It was not a forgiving bow. Now my Carrera is rated at 320 feet per second.
Yeah.
The
Well,
Q2 was I think 305 or something. Now I don't
it's
get
like
anywhere close to that. I get, maybe 280 right in that range.
most everything I got shoots around 280, 282. My hunting bow, my target bow, everything. I'm pulling on my hunting bow. I'm pulling 73 pounds, and on my target bow, I pull 68 pounds. And but I don't care about the speed. I mean, I'm shooting
Right.
in a known class. I know the distance. I just need to be able to hit it. It don't matter if the arrow's getting there at 290 feet per second or if it's getting there at 250 feet per second, as long as I can hit the target.
Right.
But that 68 pounds with about I think I'm holding about 15, 16 pounds of holding weight, and that just it feels good to me, and I can shoot it.
Well, and I found too that, if I shoot 70 pounds and I found I shoot at 70, I shoot better than if I crank it down to 60 or 65. Because what
Yep.
it does, it forces me to lock into my formula, but otherwise it's kind of a little mushy, this with the extra weight. And there's not a lot extra weight, but just enough that forced me to lock in. And even in shooting 300 round, I shoot at 70.
Right.
And it's weird. I always shot better the second half than the first half.
Those couple of pounds of holding weight on the back wall makes a difference. It'll
Yeah.
it'll it'll keep you from either, like I used to be real bad about being too relaxed on the back wall, and I'll be here, and I would let it creep a little bit. Well, that's going to make your bow shoot faster, and it's going to shoot higher. Matter of fact, at the ASA Classic this year, that was what I was doing when we started that round. The second day out on the round, I was shooting right over the top of the lower 12, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm breaking good shots. I'm just missing, but it took me to about target 11 or 12, and I made a good shot on a long target, and I'm like, figured out what I was doing. I've been too relaxed.
Yeah.
I've got to stay against that back wall. And so yeah, if you get having a little extra holding weight back there or a little heavier pulling weight, draw weight, it'll force you to hold better.
Yeah, because
Now some
otherwise
some
that
people
you're
can't
not
do it.
you kind of collapse on it. So you got to really force it back in there. And that's what I found is like, yeah, it was weird. Start off on a 300 round. The first half was lower score than the second half. Now you're getting more tired, but you're really forcing to hold into that, and you're getting back into,
Yeah,
into better form. And because I don't do, at that time I wasn't doing a lot of 300 rounds anyway. Um, but when I was in a group and shooting them, it's like I'm doing better the second half. It's
yeah.
weird. Most of do better in the first half.
I haven't shot a lot of 300s either. I can shoot 298, 299 on a regular basis. This Elite Victra, the second time I took it out and shot a Vegas round with it, I shot a 300 with a 22X with it. The first time I shot it, I was shooting and I would hit good. The next shot would be low. I put a few clicks in and it'd be good. And it'd be low. Put a few more clicks and it's good and it's low. And I got to looking, my sight was loose.
Oh,
So the first round, it really didn't even count, because I had a equipment malfunction. But I mean, the bow wasn't but I think 3 weeks old. Everything I just set it up and I guess I didn't have the sight, tightened up enough. My scope was twisting on me.
well, one little trick I learned many, many, many years ago, and I did that when I'm putting bows and everything. I might be setting them up, doing and the guys at the door always knew when I was done because I'd pull the screw out after I get all set, pull one screw out, put a wax on it, put it back in, pull the next screw out, put a wax on it. What
Yep.
happens with that wax lubricates them so you get them tighter without really forcing them because the threads are lubricated. And
Yep.
I learned that when I was competing in roller skating because you're doing jumps off your toe stops and they kept spinning on me. They'd rotate, and because you're putting a lot of force on them. And somebody said, take the Allen screw out and bolt out, take it out, put wax on it, put it back in. Did that, never had a problem after that. And so I do that every time I'm working on anything. I don't want the screws to come loose, put some wax on it because
Yep.
it will get them in there tight. A lot of times you go out and you'll, when you finally break them loose, you'll see a little spark.
Yep.
But they come loose. And they also keep them from rusting in there too. But when you got aluminum and steel, you got that dissimilar metals, so you can create a problem in there. And then the wax kind of helps insulate that a little bit and
Yep. And you got to be careful with a lot of this stuff too, because they're putting they're either using stainless steel or they're using aluminum because they don't want the screws to rust.
right.
But some of these screws are so small, if you torque them down too much, you'll pop the heads of them off.
Yep.
So you got to be careful with that. So yeah, putting a little wax on there, it makes a difference.
Yeah, because you don't need to get them. The smaller screws, the less pressure you need to put on them. They're not
Right.
measured to they're measured in inch pounds, and just like a couple of inch pounds is all you need. And you almost need one of the little inch pound torque wrenches to say, okay, this one needs 3 inch pounds of torque. Three click.
Yep.
You can overturn them. And I had one time, last time some of the work I had to do the bow, I didn't want the customer there because I didn't want them seeing what I had to do their bow to fix it. Like I got a screw on a cam, it stripped out. It stripped it out. So now the only way to get it out is to drill it out.
Right.
So I got it in the bow press. I got my drill and I'm drilling the hole out. You drill it out until you get the the head off of it, and then you can get the screw back out. But yeah, it's like taking a drill to their bow.
Yeah. Some people spaz out.
And like, well, it's either that or buy a whole new cam. You don't want to do that.
No.
Even back then they were expensive to buy new cams. Screws are cheap.
Exactly. Right. I try to keep spare screws of everything. Matter of fact, we were at the shop one day and they were working on a bow and they were looking for a screw and couldn't find them, and they had used the last one because they'll change them out sometimes to these different ones.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what do we need? And they told me, so I'll go to the hardware store down the street and get one. And so they give me a screw that they needed. I went down there, I bought every one of them they had. I brought them back and I said, here, I got these 4 or 5 for me, and y'all have the rest of them. Keep them here at the shop. They're trying to pay me. I'm like, no, I mean, it's a little bitty screw. They probably weren't, 18 cents a piece.
Yeah.
So,
I remember one time we had a bow come in from PSE and the sight holes weren't tapped. They're just drilled. They weren't tapped. Somehow it
right.
got missed in the machining. Okay, no big deal. So I got what thread it was, and not a thread you can buy in a hardware store. Not a standard thread. It was some different thread. and I don't remember what it was now. I got the tap, but so I'm looking around, like $20 for the tap, and I found one. It's like a little bit cheaper from China, so I ordered it in. Come in on a Saturday. I went to work. I tapped those holes out, mounted the sight, sold the bow that day.
Yep.
I
Tap.
couldn't sell it until then. It just so happened that's what somebody wanted, and I just fixed it to make it work.
Yeah. Tap and die set's nice to have.
So of course I bought the tap. I kept it. I PSE. That's mostly what all my bows are is PSE because I was a PSE dealer, of course.
Okay.
I do have one Bear and one Ben Pearson. My first bow was a Ben Pearson fiberglass bow. I still have it. My recurve's PSE, my hunting bow's a PSE, my target bow's a PSE. All three of my kids shooting PSE. And when I was at Cabela's, we used to get all the return bows in. So they come in and $900 Bear camo bow, just Bear bow. There was Bear's the brand, but also there's nothing on it, no sights, no nothing. It was just the bow itself. And I got it for like 10% of the new cost. I forget what it was like $900 bow was what it sold for new, and I got it for a couple $100. It needed the string stop was messed up and it needed to be fixed. It needed a new string and a couple other things, and so I got really cheap. I made a new string for it, fixed the string stop, got it all done. Never did anything after that. It sits in my safe. Never had him sighted enough
That,
mounted on it.
that's the bow you were talking about on another podcast. I remember.
Yeah. It's one of these days I'll have to get it out and set it up, just shoot it, just see what it's like, see if it's in a snow camo, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was a cool pattern. My first bow was a Bear Whitetail 2. Bought it when I was probably six. I want to say 16 years old, probably. Got it at
Yeah.
Walmart.
My brother, he bought that one. That's the first compound I shot was the Bear Whitetail too.
Yep.
We
Those
shot it
bows
so much.
they didn't have any let off. They, I think, about a 60 or 65 pound draw. And I'm 20, about a 28-inch draw length. That bow was probably 30 inch. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't know anything about setting a bow up back then.
Well, they had all the cables, and they had cables you had put on two different pins. You could put it on, depending on
Yep.
what you wanted for let off or something or whatever it was. I forget what it adjusted now. And we used to shoot it so much the old aluminum game getters, the green shaft arrows. The front about 6 inches was silver. We wore
Right.
all the finish off of it. We'd shot
Yep.
them so much.
Yep. We we learned how to shoot on a bow out of tune and way too long a draw length.
Well, my first bow, when I went in to get it at a shop, not at anything, it was actually a pro shop. I go in, I wanted a compound bow, and she brought this one out. It was a American Challenger is the model number it was. They got bought out by High Country, but that's a complete different story. We've talked about on another podcast. But I drew it back. How's that feel? Okay. I didn't know any better. It was a
Right.
32-inch draw length.
Yep.
So it ended up breaking in half. I told that's the bow. It broke in half. The top half come back and hit me in the chest because the riser itself failed. And then because High Country had bought them, they sent me a High Country bow. And I'm thinking I need a 32-inch draw length. None of that, but there's a lot of problems with the High Country anyway. Um, there's problems with it. And so then I finally got my first PSE and of course 32-inch draw length. That's what I thought I was. That's what we bought. Well, in 95, when I went to, learn back tension release and, how to instruct in archery and all that kind of other stuff like that, he measures me and says, you're 29.5-inch draw length. This is a Friday night. Saturday night's the next lesson. Your bow must be 29.5 inches or don't bother coming back because you're not going to learn anything. So Saturday, I'm trying to got it down to 29.5. That's 2.5 inches shorter than what it was. So I got it down there and learned back tension release, and now I shoot 29, so 29.5. That extra half inch gives me a little more bend. I don't hit my arm with big heavy jackets and stuff like that. So now I shoot a little bit shorter draw length. But man, that was tough. We was talking about earlier about learning the new bow. When you're 2.5 inches shorter than what you've been used to shooting for many years, um, it's weird.
Yeah.
And, and then once you get used to it, and then it's like, okay, I went a little bit shorter. It felt a little bit better for me. And, that's where setting the bow up for you is the key. And each person's a little different. The way I teach archery is one way. I teach everybody this exact same way, and then we start modifying it because what don't work, don't work.
Right.
And, I have a different way of doing it. I've talked about this other podcast, but I have a way of doing it that fits me the best. And if it works, it works. And when I teach, I don't tell you what to do. I tell you what to do and why. Because if you don't know the why, you don't care about the how, right? Why am I
Right.
doing this? So if I don't know why I need to do this, I don't care what you're telling me to do because I don't know why. Why do I want to do this? And that's something that I've just done for years and everything else, just trying to teach the why you want to do this. And whether it's in archery or martial arts and whatever else is there. It's all, if you don't know why you're doing it, you know.
Yeah. And like you say, everybody's different. The way you'll see some people when they draw their bow, their elbows will be way up. You got other people's will be down. You got some people who are way down here, and it's a feel. Some of them may not necessarily be doing it the what everybody says is the correct way, but that's what works for them. But I'm a firm believer that if you can keep that elbow pretty much in line, maybe
Right.
even pulled down a little bit, it pulls you into your anchor and you kind of settle a little better. But yeah, everybody's different. Everybody's
Well,
made different. So
the most efficient way is in a straight line. And I tell about, why you want to set your loop up in a certain position in a certain way. Take a pencil, put it on the table, and push from the eraser to the tip. It goes straight. If you angle just slightly, that pencil wants to turn. That's what you do in the arrow. And that's where you line up. You've got your hand, you've got your arrow out, and it should draw a straight line from the tip of the arrow through the nock, through your hand to your elbow. It should be in a straight line. If you're back too far, then you're probably too long draw length. If you're forward, it's probably too short a draw length. So, but that can change by how much you're bending your arm. If you straighten your arm out, so that's what, like we've talked about earlier, it's you need to figure out your form. Once you figure out your form, now then we can fit the bow to you. And that's why whenever I sold bows, I taught you how to shoot. Because until you get good form, I can't fit the bow to you. And I want you to shoot as well as you can. And that's where um, you know, you talk correctly, you're going to start shooting in nice tight groups.
yep, and you need to have the correct draw length. It's a
Yes.
There's so many people out here that they're not shooting the correct draw length, and they don't even realize it. But if they ever just tweak on it a little bit here and there, once it gets there and they shoot it and it's the correct length, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And pretty much I'd say, unless you've had somebody teach you back tension release, there's two things I can tell you need to fix. Your draw length's too short or draw length's too long, and you're pulling the trigger. Those are two biggest things that you're going to see on an archer that has not had proper instruction and setting up the bow, by a professional that knows what's going on. And, it doesn't matter what bow it is. Nowadays, it doesn't matter which bow you get. Bow manufacturers, all the new companies are just as good as the old ones. There's really not any difference in quality in them. The only difference is how's it fit you. That's the biggest thing is how's it fit.
Yep. Yep. You can buy anybody's flagship bow, just pick one, and it's gonna be a good product. Now,
Good quality. Does it fit you? That's a different story.
right. That's what I was gonna say. Can you shoot it? That's a different story. It may not be. It's a good product for somebody, but it may not be the bow for you.
Right. That's why when I hear people
I,
say, well, my next bow, I'm going to get the best. What is the best? Well, then they'll name a brand. It's like, no, they may tell you it's the best, but is it the best for you? Maybe. Well, no, until we try and shoot it. And, I told a story about when I was PSE dealer, they had a Browning, and PSE bought Browning Archery, and they had their own engineers, so they didn't really intermix. And they designed a bow with two cams at the top, counter rotating cams. I was like, that is cool. I've got to shoot that bow. I set that bow up and I mess with it, mess with it. I could not shoot that bow for nothing. I could not make that bow fit me.
yeah,
And that's my job, is to fit bows. And I couldn't do it. I thought it was so cool. I wanted to shoot it, but I it just didn't fit me right.
yeah. And they all have a little bit of different feel too on the shot. Like,
Right.
everybody now is pretty much got, they're getting dead in the hand, but there's still some that have a little more, either got a little more vibration, or they may have a little more kickback when the shot goes off. It may, make kick back into your hand. And some people don't like it. If you don't like it, you can't, you're not going to be able to shoot it well.
I'm
So
used to the old bows that jumped forward. If you didn't hang on to it, it'd jump out of your hand right on the
yeah, it's going to
floor.
leave you.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's going to leave you.
Yeah.
That's why I have a sling on my bow, and always will have a sling on my bow, because I don't hang on my bow, and it gives me that confidence. Now, the new parallel bows, all the force is up and down, so they counter each other. The older
Yep.
bows, because they're a little bit longer, all the force of both limbs are going forward. So
Right.
all that force going forward into your hand. And, that's nice about the new ones, except with my old Apple press, I can't press the new ones.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. You got to be careful with these. Just because you bought a bow press don't mean you're a bow tech,
No.
and you can mess up a bow quick. Crack limbs.
Yeah. Well, and it's where you're pressing them too. The older bows, you could press them real close to the riser, which put a lot of stress backwards on the limb. You go up next to the cams, now then you're putting pressure on the cams. So you had that sweet spot between there that would actually compress the limbs. And you have to kind of adjust them for that. And then when you get the newer bows, you're getting more and more parallel limbs. Now they got the beyond parallel limbs. And I have a little cable bow press, portable bow press, and even putting the little hooks on them for split limbs, I can't press them even with that. So you need to get like one of the, was it the Easy Press? They've got a couple of brands that are designed to press those. Because
Right. It's got the little fingers that come in, so it can,
yeah.
when it comes in, it pushes it. Yeah. I'm not a bow tech, so I carry mine to Archery Unlimited, and they help me out with it. I watch them and I try to learn, but uh, and I need to learn more than I do. But those guys up there are good, and they're 10 minutes up the road. So
learn enough that if something happens while you're out, you know how to fix it to get you keep it going.
yeah,
Um, I've talked to a lot of archers that they find a bow tech they like, nobody touches their bow but them.
yeah,
I've seen guys wait when I was at the one store waiting for the bow tech. He said he's had lines that people waited for 3 hours for him to work on the bow, even though there's another bow tech available. They wanted him to work on their bow.
yeah,
And we don't get upset. It's like, no, I want John work on it, or I want Jen work on it, or whatever. Guys come in, it's like, certain guys come in, it's like, that is over there, point to me. It's like, comes to me. And especially some of the old customers I had when I had my store, some of them weren't always the easiest to work with, because until you got them set up and are comfortable with the bow, basically it was a piece of crap. And working with them, how to set it up. And it's like, okay, here's what we need to change this and this, because how they're set up. But until they get it, and then once they get it, it's like, man, it's a great ball, great ball, great ball. Before then it was like piece of shit, piece of shit.
yeah. Right. Well, it's a different feel when it's set up for you.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like a glove. I mean, it's just a good feel. Me and Before we started this podcast, me and my wife was talking earlier, and we were talking about she doesn't shoot, doesn't really. She supports me in it, but she don't care anything about it. I try to get her to shoot a bow. She don't want to do it. But we're talking about this, and she had asked me something. I said, baby, I'm not a bow tech. I don't know. I said, I'm kind of like a NASCAR driver. I said, I drive the car, and the guys at the shop, that's my pit crew. And
Yeah.
so that kind of tickled her. I said, yeah. And I said, and here we go in 2026. I'm shooting a completely new bow. I'm going into the pro class. I said, we got nothing to lose. I said, we either gonna blow the motor, hit the wall, or we're gonna win a race. I said, but we're going all out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it tickled her when I said, I'm like a race car driver. I can't work on the motor. I can just drive it. So, and that's a
It,
learning process too. I mean, it's you shoot this stuff and you shoot and you shoot and you shoot and you listen to these people that talk that are really good, and you're like, well, I'll try that. You try it. You're like, God, man, I wish I'd have known this 3 years ago. You know, you can always pick up on something. There's always a little
right.
something that can make it better. So,
Even, when one of the things in the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group is, if you're having a problem with your form or shooting or your bow or anything, take a video of what your problem is, upload it. We'll take a look at it.
yep,
We might be able to come up with something. We might not. We might see something. And one of the things that I have is I have advantage if I have a video editing software that I can go frame in advance at a time. I can go one frame in time. I can see, exactly, okay, you started pulling that trigger before you fired it, and then you pulled through. So you're pulling your trigger and go. So now then, okay, now you're actually pulling the trigger. You're not pulling through, and because you can see frame by frame, and that's one of the things that we offer to the members of the group is a way to ask questions, and it's a good group to be in because there's a lot of bow techs in there and a lot of instructors, and um, we don't allow you to sell anything in the group because it's not about selling your equipment. And the quickest way to get banned from the group is you join, post a t-shirt for sale, delete, ban.
right. And not a yard sale.
Yeah, there's sites with that's for selling, buying and selling archery equipment. Go to those. That's what they're for.
Right.
Um, you know, if the first thing you do is post you want something for sale, no, you're not. We're not doing that. And I think right now we're at 1,400 members in the group. Not a big group, but it's a good sized group. A lot of knowledge in there, and I post all the videos. I'll upload the video to the group, and I normally go. If I forgot to do it this time, I normally go live in my profile on these, but I forgot to do it this time.
No, ain't nobody
Oh
want to
well.
see me anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they'll see you anyway because I'll post it to the group, and I may post it to my profile anyway, and just the full video. And of course, all the little shorts will come up there too. But yeah, it's quite interesting, how when you have your equipment and you know a little bit how to work on it, but yet you have a professional, it's done right. So now if you're having a problem, is it the bow or me if I did it myself? Well,
Right.
now with the professionals doing it, it's not the bow, so then it has to be you. Yeah, and that's what a lot of archers I talk to is like, nah, they don't work on their bows. They don't want the chance of a problem being introduced that they created by not doing it right. Now, me, I don't trust anybody else to work on my bow but myself because I know what I'm doing. I'm knowing it's done right, and
Right.
just kind of way out. Most times I don't trust other people to do it because, when I was a kid working on cars, I couldn't find nobody to do them right. So we started working on them ourselves. And
Yeah, you work on yourself, or like me, uh, too cheap to pay somebody to do it, so I figured out on my own.
yeah,
But
well, and
that's like these bows though. One of the reasons that I don't know more than I do on how to work on them is because I don't have a problem with it. Like it, some people seems like their bows constantly getting out of tune. Or something's going on. Is I don't have that problem. Like my Matthew's Title 36, I shot it all season before we went I was shooting those thread strings, and before the week, it was the Monday before we left to go to Coleman to shoot the classic. I was in the shop shooting, and I said, "Hey, let's put my bow on the draw board and just check the timing on it, just to make sure everything's good for the week." And it was out just a little bit, and I have been shooting those strings all year. I got a brand new set of strings that I've been carrying around for 3 months, well, about 2 months, that I hadn't put on that bow because I don't have a problem with it. But I got a
Right.
set of strings, and I'm like, I hate to change them out before a tournament when I'm not having a problem with the ones that are on it. So, and I still haven't put them on that bow, but I got them. I need to put them on because these I have shot. This set of strings on that bow they got a lot of arrows through them, but
But and after a
they've held up
while,
great.
they'll start getting close to coming apart on you.
Yeah,
And I know one time I was, so busy with other stuff, and I had my hunting bow. Um, I'd made a three-color braided string. You know how you braid, one over the other, and
right.
I did that, twisting them inside, braiding them that way, and it made a cool looking string. I had it on there for probably, oh, 5, 6 years. I'd shot quite a bit, and one time I was like, "Well, it's in my bow case. It broke." So actually, by the time I got to make another string for that, it was probably a year later before I made the string for it and got the
Yeah,
new string on there. And I still need to, do some shooting in there. But right now, I'm recovering from other stuff, so drawing the bow back right now is a challenge. But I'll get there.
you end up shooting a crossbow.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like my son's girlfriend's got a crossbow, and I might see if I can get that from her so I can go out this season. Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull my 70-pound bow back, and I don't want to redo all my sights.
Right. Well, I got a buddy of mine, like we were talking earlier. You need to shoot and be proficient with your bow if you're gonna go out and hunt with it. And he's a bow hunter. He said, I don't have time to practice. I'm not going to practice. He said, I'm not going to go out there and wound up deer. So he bought him a crossbow. That's what he does.
Yeah.
Shoot the crossbow.
Well, you shoot them like a rifle. They don't really go out of tune much. So there's really not much to tune on them. And, some of them new ones now are just so skinny. They're not much wider than a shotgun or something. Because those
Right.
limbs are right up against the rail, and you draw them back and they kind of do, just kind of go in. So they're almost like touching your arrow almost. And
Yeah. I would I would recommend on those though, change them strings. If you shoot it, I change them. I change the strings at least once a year. If you shoot it a good bit, I would probably change it twice a year.
yeah,
I usually change strings on my compound bow about twice a year. But I shoot a lot.
yeah.
We shoot a lot.
Well,
I don't know how these bows last as much as we shoot them. The
yeah, I
limbs
don't
don't get
know.
the limbs don't get weak. This, I mean, occasionally I've never had it happen, but you hear people having the bearings going bad. Replacing axle bearings. I, I've never had that problem.
Well, I think
But
the ones that are going to have the problem with that is those that go out in a lot of dusty environments and
yeah,
never have their bow cleaned.
right.
You need to pull those axles out once in a while and clean them and lube them, not with oil though,
See,
because
and I keep like this is my hunting bow. I keep it covered going
yeah,
in and out of the wood. I take care of my stuff. When 3 years ago, I got to go to Africa and hunt, and we leave out every morning, and I'd show up at the truck. They call it a bucky over there, and I got my big hard case and my bows in it. And the guys are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "We're fixing to go ride down a dirt road for 10 miles before we get to where we're hunting. I'm not going. I don't mind dust getting on me, but I don't want it all in my strings and everything on my bow." And we'd get to the hide, and I'd take my bow out and put it together. I did it every day for a week. Them guys that didn't do it, they probably still got Africa dust on their bow from 3 years ago.
yeah,
So
yeah, and
I
that's
just,
the hard on your strings. Get that dust in the strings, and as they
oh yeah,
sit,
because it's gonna stick to that wax.
Yeah, because the strings are vibrating, together. That's why you want the wax on it to keep smooth, so there's a little bit of less friction.
Right.
And you can take a look at, if you have a string, some people will put the rubber on the peeps to force them to line up, which I don't like. But if you look at anybody that has those, if it, let's say like they have a black string, it's white around where that peep is because as it shoots, that rubber smacks against that string. Every time you shoot, you're smacking it against the string, and you're wearing it out. That's why I don't like them. And if you have a good quality string, they're not going to rotate on you. Um, some of the cheaper strings, a lot of the original manufacturer strings, they're not always the best ones out there, and they will keep moving constantly.
Yeah.
That's why when I have my shop, I get the bows in, and my one of my staff shooters, he would not even shoot his bow until I made him a new string. He
Yeah.
he wouldn't even shoot the original string. First thing we do is I'd make him a new string and change them out because the new strings, they didn't stretch like that and twist. And I had on my hunting bow, my peep, it looked weird because about a 90-degree angle to where it needed to be. But as I drew back, that string rotated the perfect alignment every time I shot. It that string, it just where was it just rotated just right. And we had to do a little tweaking to figure out where it was at. And there's a lot of things you can do to adjust the peep alignment.
Right.
I think I
Yep.
went over this a couple times, but you can, if you tie a knot above and below them by pushing them up and down a little tighter, a little looser, you can rotate that peep. The other thing you can do is you can take a strand from one side, take a strand from each side, and switch them. That'll make your peep roll just a little bit more, or roll a little bit less. And you
Right.
can you can tweak them like that and get it to roll where it's always perfect alignment every time. And like there's a lot of times I didn't even tie my peep in. When you're in a 70-pound bow, there's a lot of pressure on that peep that it's not going to move out
Right. Yeah.
unless you dry
Yeah. And,
fire.
and and you can also twist your D loop a little bit so when you draw it, it turns it
Yep.
if you're having a problem.
Yeah, you look at some a lot of my D loops though, they're actually an off, not straight, they're off a little bit because when I hook onto it, I'll rotate it around before I put my arrow on there. And then it's lined up. So between, the string peeping, moving that, and if you move the loop just a little bit on the string, it really doesn't change the alignment, the up and down alignment enough that you're going to notice it.
Right. I have shooting Vegas and stuff, having a problem be like shooting a little low. I have took my D loop and twisted it like 2 rounds up. So when I draw, it forces a when you draw, it'll cause the bow to tilt up just a little
Yeah.
bit, or it's torquing it for what it's doing. I guess maybe is that tiller? That kind
Yeah,
of
well,
like
the tiller's no, yeah, that's not really the tiller. That's just more setting your rest height.
yeah. But
So what you
it worked anyway.
what you
Kept
want is you set your riser so it's level, and then you set your string so it's plumb, and then you put your arrow on, and when you have your loop tied above and below it, that needs to be a 90-degree angle. So with your string being plumb, you put a level in the end of the arrow, and that should be level. And now that's that perfect position. And if you're tweaking it a little bit, it's going to take a little bit out of point it up or point it down a little bit. And
yeah.
then, with the center shot design risers, then quick way to check it is look at the back of your arrow, align your strings in the center of your um, limbs, and you should be able to look straight down. Your pins and everything should cover up that arrow. The string should go right through the center of that arrow, and your pins are going to be blocked off by your string as well. Now that's how you set them up to be really, really close right off the bat.
Right.
Some levels in laser. It's how I set up all my bows.
A dog just walked in. She come
Oh,
checking on.
yeah, they do that. Our cat come walking in earlier and looking up at me like she wanted to jump in my lap, but she didn't.
This this one just opened the door. Come on in.
Oh, yeah. our doorknobs have the handles on them, and we had one cat that would jump up and open the handle and come on in. That's why we put locks on our bedroom door to keep the cat out. In fact, he figured out when he was just a little kitten, we'd put him in. The house was in. It had the old style doors. You could actually lock on the outside, not the inside. And so we didn't ever lock it, but it was one of those old ones that you pull out on it, the real old style locks or latches. He figured out how to jump up there and pull out on that latch, open the door, and get out of the bathroom. When it's just a little bitty kid. So
Yeah, I
I
was,
haven't put a camera in and watched him one time. It's like, yeah, he goes up there, plays it, gets it open, and leaves. So couldn't figure out why. We'd put him in there, close the door, and it would be latched. Next thing you know, he's out running around the house. He ain't learned how to open the doors.
yeah, I was washing the house one time and this lady's German Shepherd opened the door, come out in the yard with me, and they didn't know it. And well, it was a female, but she was real aggressive. She had me cornered up in a corner in the house, and I didn't hit her several times with the pressure washer wand, and it wasn't affecting her. When the lady come out, when the lady come out the door, I was standing there with my pocket knife in my hand. Me and that dog was fixing to get on the ground and start rolling,
Yeah,
but that dog had opened the door. These animals, they know what they're doing. They can get out.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes they're pretty smart. It's amazing sometimes what you see the deer do.
Hmm.
When guy I used to hunt with all the time, uh, he said he watched this deer come walking down this trail. He was ready to come into the clearing. There's a clearing spot. The deer stopped. He stopped right before that clearing, just stood there for a while, and run 3 steps through the opening and then started walking. His only place to shoot, that deer knew to stop before it and run about 3 steps till he's past the opening, and he started walking off where he didn't have any shots.
Yep.
Why? Why would it do that?
Yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, because it's not like there's anything there unless he had come through there before and somebody he knew somebody was there. But yeah, it's survival. These
Yeah,
deer, they know how to survive.
yeah. We
That's
had
why that's why it's so fun to hunt a 5 or 6 year old deer versus a 2 year old. Because it's they don't act the same.
no, they don't. They didn't get to be 5 or 6 by doing dumb stuff.
Yep. And you don't see them this time of the year. You may not see them,
Yeah,
but when the rut comes in, they show up. How they get so
but
big, so fat, and you don't see them out in green fields and in front of trail cameras. They're not coming.
yeah, it's weird. You never know. I know. Last year I hit a deer going down the highway, and there's cars coming at me, and it was dark. So of course you got your lights on low because otherwise you'd blind everybody coming down there. And the first car, one car comes by, and your eyes don't adjust immediately. Then there's another car coming down a little bit. Well, this buck decided that car just went by. That one's not here yet. I got time to run across the road. So he went from side of the road. The trail, my dash cam showed he was standing at the edge of the road. He took 2 steps and was already airborne in the other lane. And another step, he was in front of me. He didn't see me coming the other way. He watched the other cars going the other way. He didn't see me coming the other direction. So he's airborne, didn't even set off the airbags because he hit above the bumper, right into
Right.
the grill part. And he was traveling so fast. I was doing 60 mile an hour when I hit it. And he was traveling so fast. Normally, when you hit a deer, they're just going to slide down the road, be right on the side. No, he was about 20 feet off to the side of the road. That's how fast he was moving already from dead stop to the left side of the shoulder across one lane in front of me. That's how fast he was going. He had enough energy forward to keep going 20 feet off the side of the road.
Yep.
But,
My brother, he does body work, automotive body work, and he called me one day and he said, Hey, we need you to come over here to the shop one day. He said, we got a job and he said, it's nasty. He said, this lady is using a BMW and she hit a deer. Well, she hit the deer. The deer was facing away from her. It was like walking down the road or running down the road and she hit it from behind. So when she did, the deer, the deer's legs folded underneath it and it came through the grill up into the engine compartment of that car. And there was stuff everywhere. It ended up totaling the car because it was a mess. But yeah, it folded up and went right between the hood and the bumper in a BMW. You know, and they don't have very much room.
Yeah.
And it went through the radiator all up on top of the motor. It was a mess.
Yeah.
And I got to clean it with my pressure washer.
Just so you can stand that the smell to be around it.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But, hey girl.
Yeah, so we went out and got another car the same year, model and everything, just a couple of different features. So we're able to use it for parts and getting ready to go up this weekend up north to the outdoor expo and I'd had the rear tire on the passenger side was low when I had it checked the other day and a couple weeks ago, and I looked at it before I got in the car and I was like, oh, it's low, so we need to change the tires. So we pulled the two back tires off of the one that we wrecked because they were the best ones and put it on the back of this one, and the car calls for a 295 and the back of this car had 285s, the front had 295. So we changed one. I can't have a 95 on one side and an 85 on the other side. That's just not going to work. So we had to change both of them, and so spare parts.
Spare parts. Whole new car.
We used to do that a lot at Cabela's when I was there. The other guy and I that was actually knew what was doing on bows. They'd take all the returns to Cabela's. They'd ship them to our store in La Vista here, and we'd get boxes of these 4-foot cube boxes filled with bows, and we'd pull them out and start going through them and figuring out, you know, you've got three bows this model. This has got this wrong. So we can take all the parts off this one and make a good one. So we put it on our used rack and sell it. Then we have parts and stuff. And we have a bunch of the low end bows. So we end up cutting the risers off. So there's just a handle enough to put the sight on it. And we put a little hook on there and we'd set them up there and put sights on it. So you could actually hold the sight up and take a look at it and see what it looked like. Because you can't tell in a package. So
That's right.
that was kind of good use for bows that were basically worthless because the time that would take, the cost to fix the parts that were wrong was almost the cost of just our cost of buying a new one. Put a new one on the store. So some of those they didn't have any value anymore, and they were like $200 bows kits new. The low end bows, and the value was the razor. So we'd repurpose them.
Yep.
That's kind of
good
nice.
use of it.
Yeah. We'd pull them in and we'd get, that's how I got my one bear bow that is in the snow cone. I forget the model number, but that's how I got it. It was originally, $900 bow, and I got it for $150 or something like that. Because it was going to cost way too much to fix it. When you're looking at strings, $150, $200 to pay somebody to buy strings for it. And then with the riser having a problem with the string stop, that you're going to have to send it to machine shop to do it. Well, I could do it all, but so we just sell them. And the advantage of working there is when these come in, I could buy them really cheap.
Right. So on your hunting setup, what do you use a multi-pin sight or how do you do it?
Yeah, I've got a 5-pin sight that I
Fixed pins?
use. Yeah, I use fixed pins because most of my shots are 20 or most of my shots are 20 or less. I only
Yeah.
need really one sight, but I can use my pins. I know the size of the deer. If I'm level, if I'm way at an angle, it doesn't work. But if I can get all my pins on on a deer, I know I better be shooting 20 yards or less because they're filling it up. And then I can tell that, by the time I go less and less pins on them, then I can say, okay, well, I can't use my 20 anymore. I use my 30 or 40. And uh, my first year I shot was at 40. Um, since then, I took a second shot at one I'd already hit at, I don't know, maybe 10 yards. It went out 30 yards and stood broadside. So I shot it again. So I had one, one I killed at 40. One I put a second shot in at 30. The rest have been 20 or less, down to 5 yards.
Right.
I've had them so close I could see the hair change colors when the broadhead went through.
I used to use a 5 pin sight and went to a shoot with the trees and camo company, and they do a long shot competition, and I had a 60-yard pin, and I made it to 90 yards and got beat because I couldn't make the shot with a 60-yard pin. So the next
Yeah.
year, the guy I was shooting against, he had a 1 pin slider. So um, I said, well, that won't happen again. So I bought me an XL landslide 3 pin. So hunting wise, I got 20, 30, and 40. And if I need to get out here in the yard and play, or somebody wants to bet me $50, I can't hit something at 100 yards, we'll dial it down 100 yards and let it rip.
Yeah.
So, uh, but I like having. I don't want to hunt with a single pin,
Yeah.
but
You kind of need 2 pins or 3 pins anyway. And
yeah, at least two.
because you need, 20 and 30, at least now that you have a reference that you can go, okay, here's 20 to 30 and 40 is right about here. And then you can go from there. But yeah, and there's a method. I've talked about this, quite a while ago, I think now, but a method you can use where you go up close, you take your kill zone, your 6-inch kill zone, or 8-inch, whatever you want to use. I prefer 6. So you go up to 10 yards and you adjust your pin so you hit um, at the top. Start walking back and shooting until your pin hits at the bottom. Now you take your next pin and readjust it. And now you walk back until it hits at the bottom. So now you determine close or far shot. That's all you need. Is this a close shot or far shot? Close shot, use this pin. Far shot, use this one. Because no
Yep.
matter where you're at within that range, your 20 yard might go out to 30 and then 30 to 40, or it could go from 20 to 35 and 35 to 60 or something, you know. And now you just got to determine, is this a close shot or far shot, and pick the appropriate pin. Me being an engineer, I can't comprehend me ever shooting that way because I I'm a little more detail, a little more
Right.
accuracy. I want to know, okay, this is 20, because, learn to judge yardage, and then I don't need to guess, is it a close shot or far shot, and then be within, either the top or the bottom of the 6, which is still 6-inch target is going to be a kill shot. But I just, my mind won't let me do that. I need to be, I know this is exactly 20, this is exactly 30, exactly 40, 50, and 60. And now that if I'm shooting in between, I can judge if I think it's 45 yards, I know where the 40 is, I know where the 50 is, I just put the gap in between and shoot. Uh, but I can see the advantage of having a slider, um, because now then I think it's 25 and I just set it to 25 or 30 or 40, 50, or whatever it is. I can adjust it, and you can get those little bit longer ranges, because in a
Right.
fixed pin, by the time you get down too far, now your sight is so close to your arrow that you got to be careful that you can get your fletching through.
Yep. Well, and that's like on that 3 pin slider. I moved my bubble to the top of the sight, and I cheated all my pins low in the sight. That way, when I am shooting at longer distances, and I ain't talking about hunting, I'm just talking about playing, but
Yeah.
I can get a little more clearance. I can probably clear it about 110, 115 yards without having fletchings hit my sight by doing that. When you look, if somebody that hasn't ever done that, they look at it, they think the sight's on upside down because the bubbles at the top, of the round sight,
Yeah.
and then all the pins are cheated to the bottom. So it's just got the housing is higher up on the sight.
And that goes to show, what are you doing with your bow? If you're shooting longer ranges, you have to set up to shoot those long ranges.
Yeah.
If you never shoot the long ranges, like at 60 yards, I don't think I could see the deer enough to even put a pin on it or even see the pin. So um, I'm not going to take a shot that distance. I try to set up for 20 yards, but those deer, they just don't read the script. They come in closer.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that close shot inside of 10 yards is hard.
Yeah, especially up in a tree, you got such an angle, that now you got to worry about your entry and your exit hole because the exit hole at the bottom of the deer leaves you no blood trail.
Yep.
A too
And then,
high a shot, you could get above all the vitals and exit out the middle, but you don't have a blood because you're really hitting any vitals. So, that's kind
yeah,
of a tricky,
where you hit,
spot when they come in close.
one lung instead of both, it's tough.
Well, I'd almost rather get two lungs. I'd rather get a liver and a lung
Right.
because the
Yeah.
liver bleeds so much and fills the lungs up, drops them pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. They won't go very far with a liver shot.
No, but just the liver itself is you got to catch something else. That's there's all kinds of things go on in the forest, and we see so many cool things when they're in there, and it's just so much fun being in the field sometimes that you kind of forget. There's times when I've just kind of just sat there and was more interested in just sitting there relaxing than anything else. And I know I've done that fishing when I was out fishing with the Randys. There's times when like I put my hook in the water, didn't have any bait on it, and times like I don't even want the hook in the water. It might snag a fish, and I might be bothered. I just wanted to sit there and relax, do nothing. So I didn't even put the hook in the water because I was afraid something would snag on it.
Yeah.
And then other times like, okay, I need to catch fish.
Well, that's, you know, hunting is not all about the kill. It's, you go out in the morning, you get to see sunrise, you get to see the night critters go to bed and the day critters wake up. And then in the evening, it's just the opposite, the same thing. Sun setting, the day critters, their birds get quiet and everything goes down. And then you start hearing the night owls and stuff like that. They start coming alive. It's they always say you carry more going into the woods than you do coming out. It's a good place to go clear your head.
Yep. I know when I had my store, I finally got a chance to go out hunting, and it's like first several times I'm out, it's like I got this, I got this, and I was just trying to think everything I need to keep track of. When you own a store, you got it. There's a lot of things I do, and then after a while, I was able to. It's like, okay, just sit back and relax. But it took several times out in the field before I could finally relax enough to actually enjoy being out in the field. And like you said, you leave with less than you carried in, and
Yep. I had I used to always say, if I ever lose a job, I hope it's during hunting season. Well, that happened one time, and I couldn't enjoy hunting because I didn't have a job. So
yeah.
I couldn't even make myself go. I was like, man, I gotta go find work.
Well, that's why you go early and you get done, go through all your applications, and then you go in the evening.
But I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, now there's so much that's just done online. You don't have to go anywhere. Just sit there and look for all the jobs and then apply for them. And then, the one I've got now, I interviewed. I was laid off, so I was collecting unemployment, but I was retired, so I had stuff coming in, so I didn't have to worry about not having any money coming in, just not good money coming in. And so I interviewed at a bunch of places, and I, interviewed this one place. I was like, okay, I didn't think about it. Next thing I know, they call me up. They wanted me to come in. Like, oh, okay. I even forgot I interviewed with them.
Right.
Yeah, because I I didn't really care if I got a job. I got a job. If I didn't, I didn't. Um, so then you can go you go in the attitude. It's like it's not something I want to do. I don't have to do it. And I've kind of taken that attitude. Ever since one time I was interviewing for one job. And I had another job. Between the two. One was in engineering, which is what I was went to school for. The pay wasn't quite as good as the other one was more of a contractor and the pay was better. So I took that one and regretted that decision ever since. I always, it's like, this is what I went to school for. This is what I like to do. But yet I picked money over the job. And then, of course, that went away anyway. Um, so, ever since then, I was like, nah, if it's not something I want to do, you can't pay me enough to do it.
Right. Yep. We don't go to work because we love it. We go because you got to have income.
Yeah. And, right now it's like, well, income's good, but once I get caught up, I may cut my hours back even more.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to get all my finances in line so I can start scaling back this pressure washing.
Yeah. Well, and I'm 70, so I'm kind of getting tired of working.
Yeah.
I enjoy what I'm doing, so I'm going to keep staying there until I run out of things to do with contractors. So, every 6 months or so, we can renew the contract. I've got more work to do and we get the current job done. And I figured probably another 10 weeks before I'm done with this task and then I'll have something else. There's guys that
That's
work
right.
there, been working there for years, contractors, not a full-time employee, just contractor, which is kind of nice because if I need a day off, I don't have to worry about, okay, I need to take vacation, take sick leave, whatever. I just don't get paid,
Right.
you know. And with some of the physical stuff I'm going through, I had bypassed a year ago, and then about 6 months ago, a guy hit me so hard from behind, he spun me around. And the video says I'm going sideways, kind of tilted a little bit, 40 mile an hour sideways. And just prior to that, I was doing 29 miles an hour and I was backwards. So yeah, I'm still not recovered from that.
Yeah, that's pretty good lick.
But, yeah. Um, Taking him to court. The court date's 29th of this month, suing him for damages to the car. I have an attorney for the physical stuff, but you know, I had another court date on the 8th, but Sunrise wrote down a ninth, so I missed it, and I called them that morning when I was trying to finish up my final paperwork Monday night. It's like, wait a minute, this said it was today at 9, the 8th at 9, not the ninth at 9. So I called them up, and this is, yeah, we just file a motion to continue, and they didn't show up either. Like, okay, cool. So I filed a motion, so I got it on the 29th. I got another one, and uh, hopefully they don't show up for that one either, because I'll be there for this one.
Right.
That's the things you got to do.
Yeah, we got involved in a hit and run when we were visiting my daughter. We're going to watch her. She swam in college, and we were in Charlotte, North Carolina, and had a guy hit us, and he hung around for a little bit, but it took the police so long to get there. He finally took off, and then he tried to say his car had been stolen and all this kind of stuff, but he didn't realize I then took a picture of his tag, picture of him, found him on Instagram. His insurance company's talking about, well, how do you know it was him? I said, well, here's his Instagram page. This is the guy that was in the car. It matches the picture I took. You tell me, you know.
Yeah,
So I don't know what they ever did with him, but I got my car fixed.
yeah. Well, and mine is not fixable. Um, and the insurance company wanted to offer me probably 20% of what it cost me to replace it. I told him no. So I'm suing him. Sued him personally, not the insurance company.
Yeah.
So he had to hire an attorney. So we'll see, what comes out of it. And they're still more lawsuits coming. I probably lost about $20,000 in lost wages because of it. So um, he's gonna be paying for that too.
I've been lucky I ain't had to go through all that.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking for well, it looks like about 2.5 hours now. So kind of long one. We kind of get going. There's always things to talk about, and we and kind of carry on archery conversations for a long time. But what would you like to tell our listeners and watchers of the podcast?
But just if you enjoy archery, get involved with a local club. Start shooting, do some volunteer time, help them with their ranges, help set up ranges. There's a lot of great people that are involved in this sport that we do or game, whatever you want to call it. But especially if you have kids, it's great for kids. Um, I know I told you I got started in competitive archery because of my buddy calling me, but I didn't mention that I also volunteered coaching at the local high school here for 9 years with the NAS program. Um, and just watching those kids compete kind of, kind of build a little fire under me too that, hey, these kids are enjoying this and they love what they're doing. And so, when I started competing, I kind of saw what they were, the enjoyment they were getting out of it. So, that had a little bit of reason why I got going like I did.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just, get out and shoot your bow. Even if you don't hunt, you don't have to be a hunter to shoot a bow. There's a lot of people that compete, travel around and shoot. They never go in the woods and hunt.
Yeah.
It just happens to be two of the hobbies I like, you know.
Yeah, and there's like I said, there's a lot of archers that just do the target archery, and there's a
Yep,
lot of archers, that just have a bow and they've had it since they were, a while, and or they just got one, they just want to shoot in their backyard.
yep. And if you got kids that are interested in it and their schools don't have a program, the NAS program, National Archery in the Schools program, get with the administrators and ask them about it. All it takes is you got to have somebody that works at the school that wants to get involved in it, and they get certified as a instructor, and they can start a program.
Yeah. And there's, people like, you and I and stuff that, you know, if we're not certified, we can get certified. If they want to start it, the school person doesn't have to be the one that's certified. They just have to
That's
have a
right.
certified instructor to teach, according to what they teach in the programs. And it's nice because that program, everybody shoots the same equipment. So there's no advantage, no matter how much money you have, you can't shoot anything but that equipment, the Genesis bows. Everybody shoots the same bows. So what's the difference? The archer.
The archer. That's it. Yep.
And that's what's nice about that program is it's the archer that's going to make a difference. Because everybody's got the same advantage or disadvantage. Nice thing with the Genesis, they fit everybody, but they fit nobody. Just like I say
Exactly.
about because there's no specific draw length. So
Right.
recurve can fit everybody, but fits nobody. Depends on how you draw it back. You have to have your form, and that teaches good form because if you don't have that good form, you're not going to shoot it very well because now there's nothing that you can pull against to make sure your draw length is exactly the same. It's you got to feel it, and it's kind of cool when you see a new archer, whether it's a kid or an adult, that takes that first shot, and it's like, whoa, this is fun. Especially when you try to get them. It's like, you want to shoot, you want to shoot. No, I want to shoot. Yeah, come on, just try one. And they shoot the one, and it's like, ooh, this is fun. Can I do it again? Of course, you can do it again.
Yep. Another thing that the NAS program has too, they have a center shot program that you can actually get like at your church. It comes with it's a whole skit with teaches it's like takes takes the Bible and compares it with archery and shows you, when you're aiming, staying on target. And, it's a good learning lesson with that, but you can get a archery program going on at the church with your youth group.
Oh, that's kind
that's
of cool.
actually
Yeah.
how I got started with the NAS program. Is we had a guy at church that wanted to do that, and he asked me if I would go with him and get certified as an instructor, and I said yeah. So we did it, and we had the kids and the adults and everybody and their brother shoot, and yeah, I think it's a week long. It's almost like a vacation Bible school type deal.
Oh yeah.
You can do it like a week or two or whatever, and go through the course, but then you can keep the program going and shooting. But it's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't heard about that part of it, but that
Yeah,
would be kind of interesting.
yeah. There's not a lot of people know about it. I just only reason I know about it is because I got in asked to go and get certified to help and teach kids. Because the guy that asked me, me and him, we went to school together, and we've hunted our whole lives. So um, that's it's a good program.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be a good program. So, anybody's interested, get a hold of you probably because you know more about it, but get a hold of me and I can always forward the questions to you. And if you want to get something like that started, hey,
Yep,
anything to do
the
with
national.
archery, we're gonna find out and what we can to help you out.
That's right. Yeah, the more we can grow it, the better it is.
Well, it's been great talking with you today, Richard. It's um, we got going along here and went kind of a little bit longer than I normally do, but hey, not as long as I've had them. So
If break it up into two if you need to.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'll just do it as one. Um, we'll be splitting up the shorts, so that'll probably be 45 shorts that'll come out over next few days. But hey,
yeah.
that's the fun part.
Well, it took us several months to get together to do it. You contacted me
Yeah,
back in what, July, I think, maybe.
yeah, probably.
And then with me working two jobs, and I'm telling you, I stay on the go. Um,
Yeah,
Finally, the other day, I said, "Man, if we're gonna do this, we need to do it." That's why I messaged you again. I said, "Hey, you gonna do it? You send me the link, and let's set it up." So
yeah. Sometimes you just got to do it and go, and a little bit longer than normal, but it's end of the night, so it's not quite so bad. But
yeah,
so yeah,
if we went as long as you said, it's getting what, close to 10 o'clock.
yeah, we started about 7. It's a quarter to 10 now, so
Well, I've always said, if you'll listen, I'll talk. So I can
yeah,
get long winded too. So
yeah. Anytime talking about archery, I know when I first was approached with that's one of the trainings I went in. It says, who volunteered to do a podcast, once a month? It's well, I'll do once a month. They say, well, how about every 2 weeks? It's like, oh, I'll do one. It's like, okay, um, now on what? Archery.
yeah,
So I started that, and that was about 4 years ago, and this I think is episode 245. So it's been going along for a while. A lot of
yeah.
fun talking to archers all over the world. And that's the cool part is I get to talk to archers that I would never even talk to because one, I'd have to go to that foreign country.
Well, I've watched a lot of your podcasts, and you've had several of the folks that I've met at these national programs with ASA, Claire Smith, um, Spanky. Remember
Yeah,
him?
yeah.
He shoots in the recurve class or longbow class, but he's at every shoot. Everybody knows him. So yeah, you've had a lot of people on.
Yeah. And I'm open for anybody. We just if you want to get on and talk about archery, if you're brand new, never even shot yet, interesting and started, hey, perfect. I call this Archery Talk 101 for a reason because it's beginners. Um, so there's nobody that says I don't know enough about archery, not the caliber of everybody else that I talk to. It's like, you interested in archery? Perfect. Let's go.
Yep, yep. You can
If you're
always
not sure
learn.
what to do, yeah, if you're not sure what to do starting out, hey, let's talk about what you need to get started. That's kind of my first podcast was about what to do when you go to archery shop when you don't have a bow. What do you
Yep.
need to look for? And we've gone all kinds of different things from there. So
And somebody new when they go in the archer shop, it can be a little bit intimidating, but
yeah,
you go in and just say, hey, I'm brand new. This is, I'd like to get started. What do I need to do? And they'll ask you a few questions about, what kind of budget you have and that kind of thing. Because you can spend just about as little as you want or as much as you want in this game.
Right.
So, you can go in, if you're brand new, you can go in and get they call it ready to shoot bow off the shelf and spend anywhere from what, $300 to $600 probably, and have everything with a rest, the
Yep.
sight ready to go. Then all you need is a release and arrows and a target. Or
Yeah.
you can go in and buy the flagship bow and spend upwards of $2,000
Yeah.
just for the bow. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's wide open for anybody and everybody,
Well,
and
that's what I had.
anybody can do it. That's
Yeah.
one thing at these programs you see. There's guys out there, they're in wheelchairs. They got
Yep.
motorized wheelchairs and stuff with the tracks on them, and they're out there shooting. They're at every event. They travel. They love it.
Yeah. And I long time ago I was at an event we put on down at one of the lakes down here, and I see this guy walking around with no arm from the shoulder out. There was not even a nub, just no shoulder even gone. He's carrying a bow around. And I seen another guy missing the other side, carrying a bow around. And I was like, how are they shooting the bow? And then I noticed on their string, there was a big tab on there. What they do is they bite the tab and draw and just
Yep.
relax their teeth to shoot. And that was me. I never got a chance to watch them shoot, but then you run into, um, guys that don't have any arms.
Yeah. Matt.
That
Matt. Is it Slosser? I'll butcher his last
Stutz,
name, but Matt, the one
Matt
arm.
Stutzman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Armless
One arm
archer.
archer.
Yeah.
And
No, he's got Matt Stutzman has no arms.
yes, he got no arms.
Yeah.
And
And I'll see him this weekend because he goes up there every year. And I've been trying to get him on a podcast, but timing's just like you and I, timing
yeah,
just never works out right. And
well, it's hard to get him right now. He's in that funny car, drag
yeah,
racing.
yeah,
Now, when I tell you that Joker can do anything, there's YouTube videos of him on, and he's got no arms, and he's doing like a brake job on a car. He's holding an impact wrench with his feet and working
right.
it, doing a brake. I mean, there's nothing that guy cannot do. If you ever need motivation to give you a little bit of boost, pull him up on YouTube and watch his stuff of what he does. Well, you think you got it bad? This guy right here will show you you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a
He's a real nice guy too.
yes, yeah.
I
So
met him
I've
4 years
never
ago,
met
and
him
we
in
meet.
person, but I almost feel like I know him because I've seen so much of him online.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, I get to see him once a year because
Yeah,
he goes up to that event. And, for those interested, I talked about this earlier. The Nebraska's Missouri Valley Outdoor Expo is up in Ponca State Park, which is up by Sioux City, between Nebraska and Iowa, and right there at the South Dakota border. Go up there; it's a good time. We've got all kinds of stuff up there in the shooting sports. There's got the aerial archery, which are little discs that you shoot. You shoot them at the arrows that have little like tennis balls on them. And then they have a 3D archery that you can shoot up there. There's 22s, there's shotguns, there's rifles, there's throwing axes, there's the atlatls, and all kinds of stuff up in there, in that one section. And I kind of get in that section because that's where the archery is. That's what I go help out with. That's the fun part is seeing all the
right.
archers out there and getting them out there and helping them get shooting. And we actually had one lady that had from the wrist on the left hand was gone, just a nub. And so Christy, the one that runs a lot of the women's sports and a lot of archery stuff for Nebraska Game and Parks, I've known her for probably 30 some years, but um, she took them up and they basically put a sling around it and and they had her out shooting. In a few minutes, they had her shooting a bow.
Yep.
And then they had a guy that does a lot of leather work actually made a thing that you can put on your wrist to actually hold the bow instead of what they did is they put an arm guard around her hand and around the bow and something. I don't know how they worked. She worked it out, but um, yeah, if you have a problem, there's a way around it.
That's right. Yep. I've
Now
met
I've
I've met
mentioned,
guys that shoot that have they've lost an eye or something, and say they were shooting right-handed and they lost their right eye, which would be the eye you would look through your peep sight to line everything up,
Right.
and they don't want to give it up. They want to keep shooting, and they start shooting left-handed.
Yeah.
And that to me is amazing because I am strictly right-handed. If I had to shoot left-handed, I don't know what I'd do. It would be a tremendous learning curve for me.
Well, one of the things you get when you're instructor is you're teaching right-handed shooters and you're actually showing them left-handed so they can look at you and mirror what you're doing. So you have to shoot left-handed. Left-handers, you're going to shoot, show them right-handed because you want to be where they can see what you're doing because you can't mimic it from the back
Right.
because they can't see what you're doing. So you're shooting right-handed and left-handed. And one of the things I started doing and trying to get my strength back is I got some, elastic bands and I'll draw right-handed, do say no, and then I'll draw left-handed going through the motion, to kind of strengthen up both sides. And, that's helping. I'm quite a bit more strength now than I used to have. I used to, the lightest one, I couldn't even pull it back. In fact, this little water bottle here, it's, what is it? Um, 700 milliliters. I couldn't lift it there for a while. It was
Yeah.
too heavy. It was full of water. I couldn't lift it. So yeah, it takes a while to get back, but hey, we'll get back. And as you're a little bit older, it's a little bit harder to get back, but we'll get
Yeah.
there. It's
It
like shooting
takes
my bow
longer to
gun.
recoup.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're young, it don't take long at all, but once you get older, it takes a bit more. But hey, keep doing it. Don't quit.
That's right. No quit. There's no
Yep.
quit.
No quit. Well, it's been great talking with you. Again, I thought we was done, but we kind of get sidetracked and
Yeah,
like I
that's
said,
right.
we may
We're
have
doing.
to do this
I'm
again
not gonna say
sometime.
anything else.
Yeah. My name is Roy Canterbury. I've been your host in Archery Talk 101 with our special guest, Richard Fleming, and we will catch you on the next one. Remember, if you have any questions, contact me or Richard. We'd be glad to help you. Also, go out to Archery Talk 101 Facebook group. Join that group if you haven't already, because we have a lot of archers out there that can answer a lot of questions, whether it be myself or somebody else. I've been an instructor since 95 and working on bows professionally since 2001. And I've seen a lot of stuff, especially have questions on older bows. That's my specialty because I still shoot the older ones. But catch the podcast wherever you catch podcasts. You can also watch this video on the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group, as well as on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself. And you'll also be able to watch it on archtalk101.com. That site's not completely put together, but I do have the podcasts out there, so you can watch them there. And as I build on to other things out there, I'll start building it out. Have a place that you can go to get all kinds of good information. So we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening or watching, and thank you, Richard, for being on. I really enjoyed it, and we'll be talking to you later.